Our hero stared dejectedly at the computer screen. Donations in the game were so slow that he could grow old, get married 3 times, and still wait for his account to be replenished. But fuck it. He decided to take down the hidden boss anyway. Ah yes, the hero's name is Jiang Chen, a typical rich heir from the planet Lansing. He has an apartment, a girlfriend, parents in the best worlds, and a couple thousand small goals on his account. Everything seems fine if it weren't for a little problem, a fatal disease. And no, you can't treat it even for money. 3 months of life, and the timer is ticking. As Jiang Chen galloped through his list of earthly desires, there was only one single goal left: to complete the toughest achievement in the game of fantasy world. God abode that others could only dream of, and he pumped so much money into the game that any donator junkie would be jealous. Millions of coins, sleepless nights, nervous breakdowns, the whole package. But damn it, he did it. The next morning, his sister brought breakfast, stopping by to see if he'd spliced into the chair. "You've been playing all night?" she asked reproachfully. He, of course, began to deny it. But who was he lying to? His sister instantly recognized the falsity and told him to take care of his health before he fell to pieces. And at this beautiful moment, our hero suddenly felt as if he had been run over by a bus. His consciousness swam, and the world around him seemed to fall apart. The fantasy world flashed before his eyes. Castles, monsters, magical cities, the complete package for an escape from reality. When he woke up, he realized 2 things. His body felt heavy, and there was some tiny blonde sitting on his chest. This energetic little thing immediately declared him a hero who urgently needed to save the continent of Ira. The girl's voice sounded suspiciously familiar to Jiang Chen, and it was also annoyingly sonorous. Holding back the urge to ask if he was late for the circus audition, he inquired, "Who are you, anyway?" The blonde dramatically stated that she and he had been through a lot together. Then it finally hit him. This whole place was one and the same as his favorite game, Phantasmere. And that's the enhancement merchant he leaked a fortune to. Genius. Now there's a home delivery glitch. The girl slapped him hard to dispel any last doubts. The pain, the smell, it was all painfully real. No, it wasn't a glitch. He was really on his game. Just then, some chipper type burst into the room and yelled at the whole house for Jiang Chen to get out. The man smugly announced that he would take his sister whether anyone liked it or not. Romance of the "I'll give it up for cattle" level. The sister said that her brother was seriously ill, and that it would be better for the imposter to find something easier to do, such as collecting pebbles. She whispered to her brother to rest, promising to deal with the intrusive suitor herself. Zanchenki stared in shock at what was happening, wondering in the back of his mind, "What the hell is Lulu doing here?" My sister explained cheerfully. The house was hers, she lived here, and in general she had every right. Well, theoretically, something was wrong here, and the hero could feel it in his skin. He suddenly remembered that this Shen Wanhao was also from Lansing. Yes, from his homeworld, and had been lusting after his sister like a fly to jam back then. To make things clearer, a petty wind-up named Fufu decided to take the floor. She explained that on Lansing, Jinqing was supposed to quietly die, but fate, or rather the system of the game, Phantasmere, God's abode, decided to give him a second chance. They rewarded him with the opportunity to live another life. But inside the game, and here's an important point, they had a system of donation refunds. The more money you pour in, the more bonuses you get. Our guy, of course, did not spare the money. In the end, poured so much that the energy of return literally burned his physical body. Well done. It's like an investment in the afterlife. When the young man asked in a daze if he had destroyed himself with donations, Fufu shamelessly confirmed it. But she said that it wasn't that bad because she had something interesting in store for him. While they were discussing, Shen Wanhao suddenly jumped into the conversation like a pain in the fingernail. He said that he wanted to make Jiang Lu his woman, and our hero, they say, has 2 options. Either he voluntarily agrees, or the entire Jiang family will be cut out, and the girl will still be in his clutches. It's a great choice, almost like, would you like coffee or tea with poison? Fortunately, my sister couldn't stand it and, like a cultured lady, sent this clown away. Politely, but to the point. Meanwhile, our guy was sitting there completely bewildered. He didn't understand at all at what stage of the nightmare he woke up, and while he was silent, Shen Wanhao decided that since silence was a sign of agreement, he could already choose for the 2 of them. But then our hero, still maintaining his zen, lazily asked, "Are you serious? Can't you see that I'm not in the mood at all?" And the next second, bam! A massive shockwave threw Shen across the courtyard. Beautiful, epic, and frankly well-deserved. Shen was in shock trying to figure out why his cool punch didn't work at all. The hero calmly explained, "Look, Shen Wanhao, judging by your levels, you're about the level of a village idiot. And the armor I was given by this little one here," he nodded at Fufu, "can withstand anything below the 3rd rank. So, I'm sorry, but you didn't even scratch it." Shen Wenhao was seething with rage. How dare Jiang Chen fight back? Apparently the guy didn't understand very well who he had raised his hand against. Without thinking long, Shen called for his personal gang to beat up the insolent man. And yes, the man wasn't kidding. He was really going to slaughter the entire Jiang clan. Enjoy your meal, as they say. But our hero didn't care. He didn't care at all. NPCs or living people, there was no difference for him. He chopped them up one by one, turning them into meat salad with an icy calmness. And it was at that moment that everyone finally saw what a real donation boss was capable of. When the last clown had fallen, the door swung open with a clatter. On the threshold arose a woman in a body like this, 2 strengths and 3 cares per square meter. It was Auntie Meng. Without further ado, she ordered the bodies removed and buried in the backyard. Just like at the morning office meeting. "Throw out the trash, don't forget to fertilize the garden." Our young man wasn't even surprised. He expected to see anyone, but it was still strange to see Auntie Meng in this mess. He gently inquired, "Are you all right?" The aunt sighed heavily and explained. They had been lured out by a fake attack, and she and Miss Jiang had almost fallen into a trap. The poor girl was so worried that she clung to the guy with an iron grip, depriving him of his last bit of air. A hug so that there are more bruises than feelings level of care. Meanwhile, my sister wasted no time in informing me that the Shen clan had suffered serious losses, and they would definitely not let this matter go unanswered. It's only logical that when your gangster PR is damaged, you have to restore your reputation somehow. Auntie Meng confirmed it. "If we surrender now, we'll be eaten without salt." I asked her a question right off the bat. "Well, what are you capable of?" The young man thought for a second. In this game, there were stages of development: beginner, pro, elite, master, and so on, and each new rank increased the strength not twice, but 10 times, or even 100 times. For example, the same Shen Wenhao was a 2nd-ranked pro, that is at the level of village eatery brawler. And himself? The hero resolutely closed his eyes and gave out, "Yeah, lower than a rookie." There was such a silence that you could hear a cockroach sneeze in the next room. Auntie Meng was shocked. "How can you be lower than a rookie? Is this negative evolution?" Quickly gathering her thoughts into a pile, she ordered to pack. It was urgent to leave with the young master. In the meantime, she would cover Jiang's house and organize a mini festival of traps and surprises for the enemies. At least no one will find them for a while. And then we'll see. The young man confidently said, "Auntie Meng, don't worry. Yes, I'm still at the beginner level, but with my combat skills and equipment, I can take down 2 or 3 ranked opponents like Skittles." And he added, as if in between, "By the way, I have something for you." Auntie Meng looked at the strange book and asked skeptically, "What kind of masterpiece is this?" After a couple of seconds, she yawned as if the book was trying to put her to sleep with just an aura of boredom. In the meantime, her sister had an idea. Since the Jiang clan was in danger, she couldn't just sit back and do nothing. It was time to take fate into our own hands and act. But then, she looked in the book, and bang! She saw a bunch of naked girls on the very first pages. Her sister's face turned as red as a tomato in July. The cover bore the inscription, "Seduction Techniques," from Phantasmic. Of course it was. Typical donator survival manual. Our hero, as a caring brother, inwardly cringed. He'd rather Lulu didn't even leaf through such a thing. But given the circumstances, he reluctantly said, "You don't have to learn everything. Just pick the things that will help you survive. Priorities, you know." Auntie Meng, meanwhile, quickly got the hang of it. "Young master," she said, "I tried the breathing technique in this book, and you know what? One breath using this technique had more effect than all my training for the day." The hero only grinned to himself. Well, yes, the system Phantasmir never slips nonsense. Tested on himself. However, his enthusiasm quickly waned. Upon opening the 2nd chapter, he discovered that it was blocked without further explanation. And then Fufu jumped out of the blue, sat on his back, and shiningly declared, "Foolish brother! You'll get the rest when you level up." The young man sighed. Heavily, of course. Even in the new world, it's classic. First the work, then the reward. The action moves to Chuinyan Lake. Our hero was sitting with a rod like a real loser fisherman, armed with a bag of bait and a lot of optimism. However, he quickly realized That he was not just fishing for redfish. He asked Fufu with the look of someone who already regretted his life. Are you out of your mind? I'm a rookie with no rank. Why do I need the liver of a golden-scaled king to level up? Fufu only waved her hands. Well, do you want to upgrade 10 ranks at once? Then bear with it. And you know what? There was logic in what she said. A sick, twisted logic, but logic. Fortunately, our young man was battle-hardened. In the real world, he had been droning so hard that any grandmother on the bench would have gasped with respect. So he knew what to do. First, he had to pour out the usual bait, feed the fish to the brim, and then throw in the special bait. The plan worked. A vortex appeared in the water where the hook was. The fish were clearly interested. The young man grabbed the rod. That's it, King! Get out of there, a jerk! Surprise! Instead of a pudgy fish on the hook, there was a mermaid, white-haired, shiny, and obscenely beautiful. The hero darted, his eyes around, and only managed to exhale dazedly. Who are you anyway? A mermaid with impressive, dignity introduced herself as Senna. She clapped her eyes gratefully, thanking him for saving her. But our young man immediately put a damper on her enthusiasm. I was just fishing, actually. Senna understood, but she still insisted. If it wasn't for Jiang Chen's bait, it would have rotted at the bottom of Lake Chunyun. So while he thought he was just wasting bait, he had accidentally conducted a rescue operation. Jiang Chen frowned. Wait, did you just eat my bait? And then it hit him. He didn't remember such an event in the game. Another reality bug? Fufu, as always, jumped up just in time to call him her favorite foolish brother. He doesn't know anything at all. His understanding of this world is the tip of the iceberg on the planet of naivety. But back to Sena. Since his bait is her salvation, he's decided to demand compensation. So will you give me the bait back, or will you help me catch the golden scaly king? The girl bowed sweetly and replied with a guilty look. I'm sorry, but the bait is already, well, in my stomach, and I'm not going back to the lake. It's dangerous. But smiling playfully, she vowed that she would be sure to repay his kindness. Someday. The young man only rolled his eyes. Oh, classic. I'll definitely repay you in the future. Okay, don't worry about it. Go on, get out of here. But his indifference must have caught the mermaid's eye. Something twitched in her heart, and Senna decided to return the favor with an old-fashioned kiss. She slowly approached. The young man instantly blushed to the tips of his ears. At the last moment, he tensed up and hissed, Hey, you ate the bait. Now you're going to eat me? Sena ignored his distress and touched her lips gently to his cheek. It turned out to be more than just a gesture of affection. She tagged his body so she could find him easily, and her requests didn't end there. As it turned out, it wasn't. A good idea to go out on land wearing nothing. Sena politely asked for something to cover her strategic beauty supplies. Jiang Chen stammered and pulled out some old set of clothes from his inventory. As a result, the mermaid flaunted her school uniform, looking like she had just escaped from a musical rehearsal. Before diving back into the lake, Sena approached once more and asked him to wait. The hero only grinned wryly. What now, do I have to turn around every time I see you jump out of the bushes? And here she is, back in the water, even though she was just yelling about how deadly it was. Mermaid logic. Don't look for it. The young man sighed heavily. Now he had to make special bait again to catch the gold chess king. It was a nice vacation, huh? Meanwhile, nearby in the rocky gorges, the sun shone brightly, but the idyll quickly came to an end. A huge black wolf monster stood in front of the two travelers, its growl making the hair on their legs stand on end. The girl asked her uncle, in a panic, What should we do? Her uncle looked at her sternly and barked, Run! He himself remained standing, knowing full well that this was the end. A third-ranked wolf in these parts was at least a regional emergency, and he himself only thought, North Ridge, they said. A safe place, they said. Jiang Chen appeared on top of the cliff, lazily looking at the not-so-small dog below. The strangers below almost dropped their eyes in surprise. But the young man was interested in the main question. If you tame this monster, will it normally guard the house? But about that later. We should go down first. Uncle thought with a sinking heart. Can this guy really fly? 4th rank or something? Then they're saved. But then the demon wolf grinned so viciously that it was clear that nothing good could come of it. The wolf howled, emitting a magical wave directly at Jiang Chen. A girl nearby noticed, No, the guy isn't flying. He's just falling off the cliff. A legendary entrance to the frame. There was a powerful explosion. My uncle immediately made a strategic decision. Since the guy had turned into a chop, it was urgent to save himself and his niece, and the body of the hero could be found later and a monument to him. from the nearest rocks. But when the smoke cleared, what everyone saw was Jiang Chen standing in place, slightly crooked. His legs were just cramped from his successful leap of faith. Uncle almost choked on air. "You're alive! Where's the demon wolf? Are you all right?" Jiang Chen calmly brushed it off. "I'm fine. And the wolf, well, he's resting now from the looks of it. He's in heaven." Stroking the wolf's head, he said innocently, "Listen, the king of all beasts dwells here somewhere. I've forgotten the location. Will you take me there?" And he threatened, "If you don't deliver, I'll send you back to catch up with your ancestors." The wolf instantly jumped up and wagged its tail like it had won 1,000,000. A moment later, the wolf was already circling around, offering to saddle himself. Jiang Chen sat down and, waving goodbye to the random witnesses of this game, declared, "I have a lot to do here. Goodbye, everyone," and set out on his journey to meet the king of beasts. Qingyu, observing this magic, asked her uncle, "Who is he anyway?" Uncle sighed heavily. "A true master. I hope fate will bring him and me together again." In the meantime, our hero rode his wolf through the dense forest to the next adventure. The nature around him was beautiful. Sun rays glided on. The rocks, birds sang on the branches, and somewhere in the grass lay a whole pack of killed wolves. The mood, as they say, was festive. Jiang Chen reached the center of the pack. The head white wolf, none other than the alpha, suddenly spoke in a human voice. He was informed that a human had come with a request. The birds in the treetops chirped with joy. The king of beasts was in a good mood today. Apparently, the day had not yet come when he would tear heads off for slanting his gaze. One brown bird quietly snickered. "I hope this person won't be as much of an idiot as the 5th-ranked one who tried to steal the heavenly grass." Then his skull was smeared across the field. The young man bowed politely and greeted the king of all beasts, Pi Ace, a legendary monster of the 5th rank, born to command all animals. The king liked this kind of respect, so he graciously allowed it. "Tell me why you've come." And Jiang Chen, shining with all his teeth like a job interview, said, "Well, since you have the strength of a tiger, it means you have the instincts to match. Will you help me catch one fish?" There was a dead silence. Wolves, birds, even grasshoppers were silent. The king of beasts blinked. "What did you just say, little man?" "Yes, he heard right. They came to him for fish." "Fish, Carl!" The wolf roared with rage, the whole forest shuddering. He was already starting to remember how many times he had been brought blunt requests, and this was the limit. The birds in the trees decided not to wait for the continuation. They flew away, saving their feathers. The Beast King rose into the air, reporting with a roar, "Good! Since I've been silent, you've decided it's okay to pester me every day with your idiotic requests. Now I'll pack you up and send you back." And it looks like this time the conversation is going to end very sadly indeed. But Jiang Chen stood absolutely calm, as if he was facing a kitten on a leash rather than an enraged rank 5 beast. The Beast King, swelling with rage, declared, "Let everyone know how I, the king of the Northern Range, got such a reputation." The young man inquired lazily, "Can you even do that?" The response didn't have to wait long. The beast attacked, but Jiang Chen dodged it as if it was just a walk in the park. In the next second, without even changing his expression, he punched the wolf straight into its body. And he didn't just hit him, he knocked out a huge fang. The king of beasts froze in shock. "You sneaky man, you've been hiding your power all this time?" But since things weren't going according to plan, the beast, infuriated beyond belief, growled, "Okay, prepare to take all my wrath." Meanwhile, Jiang Chen calmly twirled the dislodged fang in his hands and smirked and remarked, "Just as I thought. Your diet wasn't the best. The roots of your teeth are rotten through and through." He added condescendingly, "I knocked out your fang, so it's easier now, isn't it?" And the funny thing is that the wolf looked at the knocked out tooth and thought, and indeed the pain was gone. Nevertheless, he did not relax. The beast could feel it. That strike was clearly beyond rank 4 in terms of strength. Has he come to kill me? A disturbing thought flashed through his mind. Standing up in the most threatening pose, the king of beasts growled, "Speak plainly! What do you want? If you want to fight, fight fair. You've had enough of your sneaky tricks." Jiang Chen shrugged his shoulders. "I told you, I just need help catching the Gold Scale King." And, looking the wolf straight in the eyes, he added, "You didn't believe it yourself, so I knocked out your rotten tooth. Now we're even. It's only fair that you help me, isn't it?" It seemed that common sense had reached the king's brain after all. The wolf grudgingly mumbled, "All right, I'll go with you," and turning around said, "The golden-cheeked king dwells in Lake Chuinyun. I know a shortcut." The young man followed him without much hesitation, but there was a suspicious spark in the beast's eyes. "Oh well." They reached a small grove. The wolf waved his tail. Let's go through it. Just past it will be the back of the lake. They were walking, but Jiang Chen squinted his eyes. Strange. I don't remember any path here. All right, let's go now that we've started, and then the circus began. Glowing green roots emerged from the ground and immediately began to wrap around the young man. He, not thinking long enough, began to cut them time after time, but to no avail. The roots grew again and again, like mold on a forgotten sandwich. King of Beasts stood aside at this time and condescendingly explained, Don't waste your strength. This is an ancient spell. It may have only residual effects, but even those are enough to finish you off. And grinning, he added, Either tell the truth or rot here and be eaten by insects. But Jiang Chen was unperturbed as usual. It's not worth it to negotiate with you, he said to himself. And looking into the void, he turned to Fufu. I have a twink pumped to the max, don't I? Master Rune, I can handle it, right? At that moment, as scheduled, the little elf girl, Fufu, appeared. She clapped her hands and declared, Humph, dummy brother, just now you realized to remember about me? All right, I can switch your class, but all your stamina and stats will go to 0, and you won't be able to use your weapons. That's kind of an upgrade, isn't it? Jiang Chen looked at her longingly, as if he had just been informed of a tax increase. Why are there so many restrictions? Fufu cheerfully explained. It's simple, silly brother. You have to develop all directions, not sit in the same pose all your life. There was nothing to do. The young man confirmed the change of class. While he was rebooting, the roots were still trying to make a kebab out of him. But our hero didn't lose his cool. He explained aloud, and at the same time for us, the audience, that rune spells are divided into 2 categories, attack and defense. They can weaken the enemy, strengthen allies, create illusions, change the rules of combat. In general, a set for a fun life. But every spell has a core, a point of energy concentration. Jiang Chen had already started to form his spell, but the beast, meanwhile, was philosophizing in the corner. If you destroy the core, the spell will disappear. And somewhere in the bushes, someone was whispering, That guy, what else is he up to? In the meantime, our hero struck a powerful blow at the unfortunate roots. Blow after blow, chopping them down with such fury as if they were a line at the tax office. And of course, he adopted a heroic JoJo-style fighting pose, and then, in the distance, he saw a black silhouette. There you are. It's time for you to taste my hospitality, Jiang Chen said cheerfully. When the fog began to clear, they could see who was in front of them, a girl with wolf or cat ears and a small horn on her head. She struggled to open her eyes and groaned. Ugh, my head is cracking, but thanks for saving me anyway. Otherwise, I would have been in print for a couple 100 years. The Beast King, looking at all of this, was in complete prostration. How? How is this even possible? The young man lazily turned to the beast and asked, Hey dog, is this your enemy or what? And then the beast, full of emotion, rushed toward the girl with a scream. Mommy! The next second, the girl calmly slapped him on the head. Why are you yelling like you're at a funeral? I'm not dead yet. The poor beast was sobbing his heart out. Mama! I thought I'd never see you again. And Jiang Chen stood there and dumbly flapped his eyes. What? What, Mom? The girl, smiling, introduced herself. Hero, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Garuda, and this jerk next to me is my son. Young man was shocked. Garuda? One of the 4 legendary divine creatures of Fantasworld? But Garuda only snorted. What sacred creature? I've been in print for hundreds of years, and I've forgotten what fame is. I thought everyone had forgotten about me. She looked at Jiang Chen and added with all sincerity, If it wasn't for you, hero, I would have died of old age. And then the young man finally understood why there were only vague rumors about Garuda in the game. He realized why there were only vague rumors about Garuda in the game. He, still in mild shock, asked, You're so strong. How could you have been sealed up in the first place? Garuda, shrugging her shoulders, replied, I just got old, bored. My strength was gone, and then I ran into the wrong people. But never mind, it doesn't matter. And then, looking at him with a challenging look, she asked, And you, hero, why did you come here in the first place? At this moment, the King of Beasts visibly shrank and moved aside, as if hoping that no one would notice him. It was obvious that he was embarrassed. The King of Beasts was about to quietly leave this strange place, but it was not to be. The Garuda folded her arms across her chest and lazily threw her hands together. Who let you move? We're not done yet. Meanwhile, the King of Beasts was screaming hysterically, Mama! Mama, mercy! But the Garuda was merciless, knocking him out with a couple of precise punches right on the spot. She sighed heavily as she looked at the animal lying there. I've raised it on my own head. She then turned to Jiang Chen and, completely serious, added, if you want, I'll pull out all his bones and make soup for him. The young man hurriedly waved his hands. Don't! I still need him! To help me with the fish. In the end, the three went to Chunyuan Lake. There, the king of beasts finally proved his prowess by catching the golden scaly king. The Garuda, watching this circus, grinned and said, Hero, if you want more fish, tell me. This fool will catch every drop of Chunyuan for you. The king of beasts, of course, immediately jumped into the conversation. I'm actually the world champion in fishing, and Jiang Chen only smiled awkwardly as he looked at the fish he had caught. Great, it gets better. The young man opened the fish and found a strange piece inside. By the law of luck, it had to be eaten raw. Well, what can you do? The hero swallowed it without question, and instantly began to choke. Garuda, watching the fun, asked, Is there anything else you need? The young man, struggling to catch his breath, waved it away. That's it! Consider us even. I must go on. In parting, Garuda shouted cheerfully, See you again, hero! Call me if you need anything. Leaving the mother and her child to deal with each other, Jiang Chen left. Meanwhile, the king of beasts looked back at the departing figure and asked Garuda, Mom, why are you being so polite to this man? If I had fought with my full strength, there's no telling who would have won, and you are in your peak. But Garuda, with a slight chuckle, interrupted him. Son, are you blind? He is an ordinary man of the first rank. The king of the beasts freaked out. The first one? Doesn't he even hide his strength? Garuda nodded. Yes, and if he's so scary at the first rank, imagine what he'll be like next. She added thoughtfully, That's why I bet on him. Our kind, our fallen wings, will rise to the heavens again. And that's where the philosophy was interrupted. The scene changed. We are now transported to a bustling city. The merchant, with a smug smile, turned to Jiang Chen. Sir, you have ordered crystals worth 7,200 somi. What will you pay with? Somi or gold? The young man looked at the merchandise and thought in horror. This amount of crystals is worth as much as a small island. The merchant, catching the confusion, immediately started making waves. If you don't have money, get out of here. You're wasting your time, you lazy bastard. Jiang Chen gritted his teeth grimly. Why is he yelling? I should have brought some money with me. But there was no time to be discouraged. He grabbed Fufu's hand and exhaled sharply. Okay, I've eaten the liver of the golden scaly king. Now we need 3 sparkling crystals, 3 transparent crystals, and 3 sacred. Crystals, he exclaimed in despair. Where the hell am I going to get that kind of money? Fufu nonchalantly replied, These are the system requirements. It's useless to complain. And finally added, And yes, stop carrying me around like a toy. The young man scratched the back of his head. The sacred crystal is rare, but the other 2 can be bought with money. He began to look around for an escape, and finally spotted a small shop where a girl sat behind the counter. And that's where his next adventure would begin. A young man noticed a girl who was fortune-telling on the past, predicting the future, 3 times a day, only for a select few. What an exclusive service. Soon a man approached her. He politely asked Mrs. Juaita to read his hand, but the girl immediately cut him off. You are not the chosen one. The man is not confused. Wait, don't jump to conclusions. Here, a modest gift, as a token of respect. But Juaita stood like a block of ice. Suddenly, she had a sudden change of heart. Oh, my mistake. You are the chosen one after all. So tell me, what do you want to know? Our young man was watching all this on the sidelines, and in his mind he had a brilliant idea. Shouldn't he try it too? While life in the city went on as usual, he set up a makeshift shop. Come in, fortune-telling without cheating. It's all honest, and of course such activity was noticed by Juaita herself. She squinted at me and asked, Listen, what are you doing running a fair here? Are you stealing customers? The young man smiled. No, you only tell the chosen ones, but I tell everyone. Juaita snorted. That's how rules are broken, and I like rules. She ran her finger over his face and suggested, Let's have a contest. The fortune-teller's pride is at stake. The loser gets out of here. How's that for a deal? The young man scratched the back of his head. A fortune-teller's pride? I didn't have any, but money was sorely lacking, so he agreed. Juaita smiled contentedly, and then Fufu solemnly announced, The first competition of the best fortune-tellers of Ventil. Street is now open. First question, what will the next passerby be wearing? Juaita said confidently, purple. Jiang Chen shrugged his shoulders. Yellow. And then a girl appeared on the horizon, wearing purple and yellow clothes. Fufu giggled. Both of them guessed. Right. Juita fiddled a little. Okay, just hurried. Next question is on me. Second question. What hairstyle will the next passerby have? Juita stated, short, and Jiang Chen suggested with a smirk. Bald Fufu swiftly flew up to a passerby and ripped off his wig. And yes, they were both partially right again. It was time for the third and decisive question. What will the weather be like through the evening? Juita, all pathos, clutched the magic ball in her hands and solemnly declared, cloudless sky. Jiang Chen looked up at the sky and chuckled. I say it's going to pour like a bucket. The bets have been placed, and soon it will all be decided. The girl didn't understand. Why would it suddenly start raining? And as soon as she said it, bang! Thunder rumbled. The heavens opened up, and it rained so much that even mermaids would have swum up the mountain. Juita froze. That's it. I've lost. And Jiang Chen, looking at the satisfied Fufu, suddenly remembered, I've got my astrologer twing to the max. And he immediately explained, unlike ordinary fortune tellers, astrologers are a hidden elite class. They don't just whisper incantations over orbs, they actually predict the future by the stars. And they can even influence the weather. So without Fufu, he would look, to say the least, pathetic in this argument. Juita, barely keeping her face, admitted defeat. If I've lost, I'm leaving. You won't see me on this street again. And, almost leaving, she added, by the way, I'll leave all my magic tools here. Jiang Chen, of course, rejoiced at the gift. But the joy lasted for exactly 3 seconds, because the girl immediately added, for a modest 5,000 somi. The young man froze in a stupor. Is it for a fee? Juita shrugged. Well, what did you think? Now I don't have a job or a shop. Besides, you'll definitely need these things, Jiang Chen thought for a moment, and offered 2,000. Surprisingly, the girl agreed without argument, and then, as if from a romance novel, she suddenly kissed him on the cheek. This is the winner's reward. Ah, master, perhaps you'd like to get a loan with your apprentice, and teach her the art of divination? Jiang Chen only snorted. Yeah, sure, only the tuition is for a fee. That was the end of their negotiations. The girl waved cheerfully and left, wishing her good luck. The young man escorted her with a glance, figuring it out. She seems suspicious, but okay, if I can save up for crystals quickly with this cart, I don't care at all. The next day, or maybe the same day, who keeps track of time there anyway? Jiang Chen sat outside his divination shop, sprawled out like a true professional. And then he was approached by a familiar type, the same man who had earlier tried to get Juita to make predictions. The man looked around the shop and ordered, his men, surround this charlatan. Jiang Chen raised his head lazily, yawned, and asked, hey, are you sure you're at the right place? Anyway, Juita showed up here a week ago. She showed her skills, and of course Mr. Lopo was immediately interested, like a cat on the scent of fish. He even gave her an advance on his behalf, a decent sum, enough for new clothes, all in the hope that she'd solve one. Let's just say a subtle problem. The man explained. Juita took the advance payment, smiled, and said, it's too complicated, I can't do it without a master. A typical scheme. She took the money, put her slippers in her hands, and bye-bye. Glancing at Jiang Chen, the man fiddled and added, and now she's gone. Meanwhile, Mr. Lopo's condition, well, let's just say that Mr. Lopo's condition hasn't improved. What are we going to do? Jiang Chen lazily raised his hand and retorted, look for her master yourself, why are you bothering with me? But then it hit him, that very kiss, the very words, master. The guy realized that he had been so skillfully scammed that he could write a textbook. The man, meanwhile, added fuel to the fire. You have 2 options, either return the money or treat Lopo like a medical god. Jiang Chen looked at Fufu and only smirked. What are the other 2 options? There isn't even one. Fufu, sensing something wrong, shot forward like a rocket. Every man for himself, when it was obvious without further ado. Jiang Chen didn't understand. Hey, why are you starting earlier? But it was too late. The man shouted to his men, grab them! Everyone immediately rushed towards Jiang Chen, but the guy dodged as if he was taking a parkour exam. Even though I'm an astrologer by status, I can't be stopped by these clowns, he thought smugly. And then fate, as usual, decided, ha, hold the footstool. His leg was sprained, his body felt like cotton. He was literally standing on paper legs. He turns around and bang, he crashes who was running ahead. Both of them collapsed like sacks of potatoes. Fufu sighed sarcastically. That's unfortunate, stupid brother. And the stalker, grinning, said, well, Where are you going to go now? And then suddenly yells at the entire hall, Master! Jian Chen stood there shocked. What? She blinked her innocent eyes and asked what he was even doing here. The uncle that Jian Chen had accidentally rescued recently came over to them. The man proudly introduced himself as Lin Huai, the head of the Chuyun Village Trade Guild. Just like in a bad fantasy, if you saved someone, you should prepare for unexpected encounters. Lin Huai turned to the captain who was chasing them, saying that if it wasn't for Jian Chen, their entire gang would have perished in the north. Qin Yu, who was standing next to him, blushed embarrassedly. Jian Chen chuckled to himself. That's right, those are the two I accidentally pulled out back then. Then he already added out loud, no formalities. I am Jian Chen. Lin Huai, still keeping his face, tried to settle the conflict and told Captain Chi Gay that it was all a trivial misunderstanding. But the man was clearly a fan of principles. Misunderstanding or not, it's all the same. This guy is coming with me. I have to report to Mr. Lopo. Lin Huai looked at the captain the way one would look at a cockroach in soup. As if on cue, 3 guys appeared behind the captain. One looked like he had eaten a plate of nails for breakfast in the morning. Kigi squinted his eyes and asked Headlin, Are you seriously going to ruin our relationship today for the sake of some obscure stranger? To which the guild leader replied, with icy politeness, Dear Mr. Jian Chen is an honored guest of our guild. Then he added, just to be sure, Captain Chige, do you want to declare war on behalf of the Lopu family? And then Sigei's internal blue screen of death clearly kicked in. He had no idea what to do. So, what are your suggestions? He squeezed out, clearly hoping to have it all solved for him. Without blinking an eye, Uncle Lin suggested a compromise. Let Jian Chen show that he was worth anything as a fortune teller. He turned to the guy and respectfully asked, Mr. Jian, could you go to Lopu and try to help him? Of course, Lin emphasized, it was a voluntary matter, but it was also a paid matter, and where money smells, Jian Chen, as they say, is already off to a low start. Soon, the whole procession arrived at Lopu Castle. Kige proudly brought Jian Chen as if he had brought a bag of gold. Lopu, without even getting up from his throne, waved his hand. Come over. But the strangeness did not end there. Chige declared that the young man must swear, silently, not a word to anyone about what he would see next. Jian Chen blinked incomprehensibly. What kind of spy passion secrets are these? And then Kige, lowering his voice, broke the tragic news. Our master is pregnant. There was a moment of silence. The shock was so powerful that Jian Chen seriously began to suspect that this was some kind of prank. What? Read on his face. But no, Lopu was completely serious. He explained that this was all the result of an evil spirit taking over the castle. Jian Chen almost slapped his forehead. Ah, of course. Classic of the genre. Possession, pregnancy, the whole shebang. Meanwhile, his little son ran up to Lopu and tearfully asked if his father would be all right. Lopu patted him on the head and assured him that everything would be all right. But he could hardly hold back his tears as he looked at his son. Jian Chen, who was standing next to him, was already starting to boil over. How much more of this snot could he take? He abruptly cut the drama short. Stop being melodramatic. Where is that thing that did this? Jian Chen and Captain Shigi went to the basement of the castle. On the way, Shigi proudly announced that they had specially summoned Grandmaster Ba from a neighboring country to exorcise the evil. So, they said, all the young man had to do was to help a little, and they would get money for it anyway. And what's the nicest thing? In advance, there was an atmosphere in the basement. A group of local experts were trying to exorcise the devil. They had managed to build a fire in a room that was already unbreathable. Jian Chen, watching this circus of fire, only chuckled, Yeah, burn all the oxygen and then wonder why you were carried forward. Without a second thought, he walked over and opened the windows so that he wouldn't suffocate early. Master Ba almost had a heart attack at this moment, watching Jian Chen brazenly violate their sacred ritual. Master Ba looked at Jian Chen and didn't understand why he was hanging around. Who was going to be responsible for the thwarted exile? Chige quickly intervened, saying that it was fine. He was an assistant. He would help. Well, at least interfere officially. The bald guy from Master Ba's team grinned and said, With a master like us, you don't need any help. Just stay back and keep a low profile. Jian Chen only shrugged his shoulders. You can stand on your ears as long as you get paid later. Master Ba, meanwhile, started the show by summoning a huge yellow sword that shone so brightly that it made his eyes hurt. The bald man was speechless as he saw a holy crucifix in front of him. How could such a spell even obey their master? Master Ba, full of pathos, struck the demon with that sword, demanding that he go back to his hellish commune. The demon was yelling like he owed him an advance payment and was being kicked in the ass. Ba grinned smugly. With such power, it's definitely over. But it was not to be. Right in front of him, a demon girl. A demon girl, disgruntled beyond belief. She looked at him as if he had ruined her manicure and now had to answer for it. Master Ba was shocked. Why the hell is she still alive? But after collecting himself, he decided, I'll add some more swords so she'll understand. But the demoness gracefully dodged and went on the offensive. Ba dreamed of an epic banishment, but got kicked in the butt and thrown into a wall. Beautiful, clear, well-deserved. Meanwhile, Jian Chen stood back, watching all this commotion, and lazily tossed to the bald guy. Tell your master to stop or he'll really burn alive here. The bald man was puzzled. Who are you to give out advice? Jian Chen calmly explained. Master Ba lacked spiritual power. In order to hold the Holy Cross, he stupidly burns his soul. And right now, the demon and master's strengths are almost equal. The longer he drags it out, the faster he'll end up killing himself. The bald man stared at him with square eyes. What did you just say again? He grabbed Jian Chen by the collar and tried to act tough, to which Jian Chen, looking coldly into his eyes, muttered, Let go quickly. Baldy immediately deflated and let go. But he muttered to himself, My master has been exorcising spirits for decades. How could he even lose? The demoness slammed Master Ba into the wall with a vicious kick. The bald man panicked and rushed to his teacher. The demoness only smirked, towering over the rescue team, surrounded by an ominous gloom. Captain Chige looked around nervously, clearly mentally drafting a will. What to do now? I want to live. Jian Chen, while everyone was panicking, calmly folded his fingers into a special shape. A golden glow shone out from his hands. It seemed like the show would now begin for real. Master Ba shouted at Jian Chen in a panic, saying, Don't mess around! His circle was still protecting him, and he could escape in time. But when the circle collapsed, it would be too late. Jian Chen disdainfully looked at Master Ba as if he was a student who had cheated on his homework and was proud of it, and coldly threw it down. Just because you can't, doesn't mean I can't. Theo. Next second, 4 golden weapons flashed around him, as bright as the sun at its zenith. Master Ba almost dropped his jaw as 4 holy crosses shone in front of him. Weapons whistled toward the demoness. The demoness was expecting an easy victory, but this was a turnaround. The golden blades began to burn through her. She howled in pain. Why? A desperate cry shook the walls. The golden crucifix flashed, even brighter, and scattered everyone to the corners. Jian Chen, standing up and shaking off the dust, grudgingly muttered, When you yell, cover your mouth. Now I'm covered in drool. Nice, thank you. The demoness, rubbing his shoulder, tried to save face. She called him a fool and told him to stop showing off. But he had almost no strength left, so her chance had come. She rushed towards Jian Chen, already anticipating the triumph, but she suddenly froze abruptly. Something was clearly not going according to her plan. The young man asked lazily, Are you sure my strength is at an end? And in front of everyone, he summoned 8 more, 12, no, 16 more golden weapons. The demoness's gaze turned visibly gray. The realization of defeat came over her like a cold shower. She sat doomedly on the floor and whimpered, It's not fair. Jian Chen chuckled as he looked at her pitiful appearance. Honestly speaking, I liked your bold and pranky version better, but he wasn't going to admire the show. He ordered sternly, Come on, spit it out. Why did you put that black soul in Lop in the first place? The demoness admitted with slumped shoulders that she just wanted to help. Jian Chen raised an eyebrow skeptically. Help? Come on, tell me more. And she began to explain. A couple of days ago, the spirit of a boy who had died a violent death had wandered in here. His last wish was to stay near his father, Lopu. The problem is that weak souls don't last long. To save him, she made a soul embryo out of a spirit and put it into Lopa. She said that when the spiritual energy accumulates, the boy will be reborn as a full-fledged soul. Jian Chen grimly clenched his fists. What other rudiment? It's a black soul. Do you realize that you could have just endangered Lopa? The demoness immediately babbled an apology. She didn't know it was so dangerous. She did everything from the bottom of her heart, and in general, did not touch anyone, did not kill anyone. Looking at the girl, Jian Chen realized there really wasn't any human energy from her, and she didn't seem to be lying, so, he decided, this lady was allowed to live for now. He went to check Lopu's condition. What if there were surprises there too? They were already met at the entrance by Captain Sige. As if nothing had happened, he inquired, Master Jian, have you finished already? Jian Chen squinted his eyes and asked, "When did you manage to show up here?" "All right, don't worry. Everything is under control." But the captain's gaze was immediately drawn back to the demoness. And clearly just in case, he blurted out, "Is this lady with you? Come on up, there may be evil spirits downstairs." The demoness crossed her arms over her chest and looked at him like the genius of the year. "Wow, really? I guess I didn't know that myself." Sige went pale, and the demoness only chuckled, enjoying the moment. Anyway, back to Lopu's castle. Lopu, moved to tears, hugged his little son Toby and whispered, "I missed you so much." Jianchen, keeping a sober mind, explained to him, "But if you keep feeding it with your spiritual energy, you'll die, and who knows what this thing will even hatch into." Therefore, without too much sentimentality, he put Lopu out of his misery. The spirit and truth spell disappeared from his body. Lopu, still in disbelief, turned to Jianchen and asked, "Toby didn't just get attached to me for nothing, right? Maybe he had something to say? Could you please find out?" But the young man holding the bag of gold he had earned answered without a drop of doubt, "The fee has already been paid, so look for someone else. I have more important things to do." As he was about to go out, Lopu's cries sounded behind him. "My poor Toby!" But Mrs. Namel said he would be the bearer of the holy crystal. At the words holy crystal, Jian Chen abruptly froze. Aha! Now this was really getting interesting. The action takes place in a busy shopping plaza. Fufu, as always, is full of all sorts of goodies and, as the law of the genre dictates, has not gained a gram of weight. Where's the justice? Meanwhile, Kenyu ran up to Jian Chen and shyly asked, "Don't you want to stay here longer? After all, we still haven't had time to give you a proper meal." Jian Chen politely but firmly refused. "No need. Lopu has already told me where to find the holy crystal, so we have to hurry." After a while, Senyu gave him a small gift. The beautiful pouch contained 2,700 somi worth of sparkling, almost transparent stones. She also added 3,000 gold on top from herself and her uncle. A 5 out of 5 level of niceness. Jian Chen was of course touched, but he still didn't understand. How 2,700 somi? If that brazen merchant wanted to charge 7,200 for this junk, who's cheating who here, I wonder? Kenyu embarrassedly explained, "Lust for profit is common, but don't worry about it. If you need anything, just ask. I promise I won't let you spend a single extra somi. As they say, you have your own accountant, and life is easier." Soon, Uncle Lin came over. Proud as if his niece was the new Minister of Finance, he praised Kenyu. "She calculates the road, cost, and production in one glance. Pure talent. This shopping street should have been handed over to her a long time ago." The young man was thinking at this moment, the ability to save money on purchases? That's gold in human form. In his mind, he had already put Chenyi on the list of very useful people. Moving closer, Kenyu, slightly embarrassed, wished him, "Come back alive." Jian Chen was even slightly confused under her gaze, but he quickly gathered himself and with a slight smile promised, "I will. We'll meet again." Grabbing Fufu by the scruff of the neck, he moved forward, while Fufu loudly resented, "Hey, I haven't finished my food yet." Well, someone's priorities are very clear. Uncle Lin, watching this scene, couldn't help but ask Qingyu, "Why didn't you stop him if you like him?" He knew the girl was not only intelligent, but also with a great soul. But Qingyu quietly replied, "Brother Jian is not the kind of person who can sit in one place for a long time. She had already decided everything for herself. She will work, develop their business, not just a street, but an entire mainland by blood. If she wants to be by Jian Chen's side, she must be worthy of his level. And here's where I even want to insert my own opinion. Hey, Jian Chen, you just missed out on, not a girl, you missed out on the perfect investment for the future." Night had fallen. Jian Chen decided to stay here. It was still a long way to the next town. He lazily glanced at Fufu and asked, "Are you even going to bathe?" But Fufu, who had gorged herself like a buffet queen, only turned away and mumbled something inaudible. "Wash? No thanks, I'd rather snuggle up with a pillow." By the way, the young man wondered why it was so cold in here. He went to the door, opened it, and voila! In front of him stood the very same demoness, dressed so provocatively that the local morality would simply go out the window. Surprised to the point of falsity, she knelt down and offered a service. Free, the promotion of the day. Jian Chen closed the door right in front of her nose without emotion and sighed heavily. How can you believe in normal people after this? Standing in the room, he heard the demoness on the other side of the door continue to broadcast, "If the gentleman would like a bath, I can arrange it." The young man threw her out into the hallway again at the same second. Poor Vivian was almost crying. She was getting ready. She'd picked out her outfits. and now she'd been heartlessly rejected. She only wanted him to praise her efforts, at least for the sake of decency. At that moment, some guy jumped up from behind and asked, "If you don't need a maid, can I have her?" Vivian turned to him with an intimidating look and an icy smile. "It would be my pleasure." The guy turned as pale as a sheet and ran down the hallway with all his legs, screaming frantically, "Demon!" A crowd came to the shouting. Everyone began to chatter. "Where is the demon? Who's seen a demon?" The demons and panic travel agency would obviously appreciate the excitement. At this moment, the door swung open, and Jian Chen waved impatiently. "Quickly enter the room." The demoness, entering, snorted resentfully. "Rude, but I kind of like it." When they were alone, Jian Chen got straight to the point. "And why are you picking on me?" Meanwhile, Fufu, supposedly asleep, opened one eye and began to quietly watch the events unfold. Vivian, portraying the drama of the century, began to tell her tragic story. Her name was Vivian. She was an innocent girl who fell into the clutches of scoundrels. In order to preserve her honor, she chose death. Jian Chen yawned. "Get to the point," he demanded without too much sentimentality. Finally, Vivian gets to the point. She wants her body back. She's tired of being a spirit. So she asks the master for help. The young man grinned. "What's that got to do with me?" The girl, bowing slightly, clarified with a naive smile. "If the Lord would like to help, I'm all yours." Jian Chen, carefully stepping back, explained. "To restore your body, you need a fortune teller of at least rank 5. Even with my secret techniques, that's only rank 4. And right now, as you can see, I have the first rank." Vivian's eyes rounded. First rank? It sounded like a revelation to her. After all, if he could beat her so easily with just the first rank, then who was he at the 4th rank? Without long thinking, she sat down before him on her knees and exclaimed, "I have faith in Master. You will definitely rise to the 4th rank. In the meantime, I'm willing to give you my soul right now." What can I say? Somewhere in the corner, the labor relations codes were quietly crying. Jian Chen calmly clarified as if he was explaining something trivial. The soul transfer meant that Vivian's life and death were now entirely up to him. No options, no return. But Vivian was stubborn. If she didn't even have the guts for that, why would he even bother with her? It's ironclad logic. And without further ado, her soul was carefully transferred into Jian Chen's hands. The young man sighed heavily, probably already sensing what he was in for, and reluctantly agreed that when he reached the 4th rank, he would help her get her body back. But of course, he wasn't going to do anything for nothing. In return, Vivian had to do one thing for him. Vivian didn't even bother to specify what the request was, and instantly began to remove her clothes. Jian Chen's reaction was instantaneous. Sincere bewilderment. What was going on? The girl, full of drama, explained. She had been chaste in her lifetime, but now she wanted to give him a special experience. Jian Chen only rolled his eyes tiredly. No, seriously. He actually meant the usual request, to stay and look after the house, without any bonuses. Besides, he reminded himself that time was running out. It had been a few days since he'd left, and Shen might as well start moving. And now the girl would live under a new name, Xiao Wei. Discipline, disguise, everything as it should be. Xiao Wei nodded and accepted the new name without question. There wasn't much to choose from anyway. At dawn, Jian Chen briefly announced that today they were going to the northern city, to the Jian family's house. In between, he asked Xiao Wei to try not to scare anyone there. The mission was not an easy one. Standing to the side, Xiao Wei was still in a state of culture shock. How could it be that the night had passed and no one had used her services? Apparently, she had very strange ideas about her new job. Jian Chen only lazily reminded her that he was not interested in such pleasures of life. Xiao Wei's seduction plan had failed, but Xiao Wei decided to act in a martial way and threw him on the bed. The only problem was that Fufu was already snoozing peacefully on the bed. There was a menacing growl that made even the walls shake. Fufu opened one eye and growled ominously, "Whoever disturbs Fufu in her sleep, you're dead." And so the night of romance officially ended. With a bang, the morning came. Jian Chen finally reached the right place. He took out the map, looked at it, and fell into a slight stupor. These scribbles had clearly been drawn by someone with a foot or a nose. Either way, it was impossible to understand anything. When he looked around, he noticed a strange couple, a blonde man and a beautiful girl. The blonde man, without wasting time, gave out his entire profile. Ernar, 33, lives in a northeastern estate, doesn't smoke, drinks when he's in the mood, unmarried. In short, Tinder in real life. Now he was expecting Miss Tina to say something too. At this time, Jian Chen was already thinking of asking them for directions. But the plans collapsed the moment Fufu came around, shamelessly demanding sweets. And, of course, everyone forgot about the holy crystal. Priorities, as they say, are at a premium. Jianchen explained that they had to find the holy crystal first and everything else would have to wait. But Fufu flatly refused to wait. She demanded food, and she demanded it immediately. The logic is simple. A growing body is more important than some crystals. Meanwhile, Miss Tina admitted with a sweet smile that she loved to sing and watch theater productions. She asked Varnar politely about his hobbies. He froze, thought for a moment, and then, of course, mentally mouthed, "What hobbies are there? I'm just a fan of these beautiful hands. Just the thought that they could be mine, and I'm already squealing with delight." Jianchen, observing this suspicious type, quickly thought to himself, "No way, too murky a guy. I'd better ask someone else for help." But the strangeness didn't end there. Werner suddenly sensed an atmosphere of pressure. It looked like there was something very, very interesting, or something very unpleasant, or more likely both. Tina worriedly asked the Lord if he was all right. Meanwhile, the knight felt a strange pressure, so powerful that his skin itched with anxiety. But the most interesting part? He realized that this pressure had already disappeared. Apparently, not even noticing that something was wrong with him. Classic. His brain had gone on vacation without him. The knight looked at the departing Jianchen and apologized to Tina with a stone face. He apologized to Tina, saying that he had to go, and probably kick someone's ass. In the forest, however, another circus was going on as usual. Fufu burped loudly as if she had just eaten 3 boars, and for that, she instantly received a verbal smack from Jianchen. "You're acting like a pig." Romance level 100. Before they could digest what had happened, Werner jumped up to them, politely as if he were going to ask the neighbors for salt. He asked if he could distract them for a moment. Then he said, "You were looking at me just now, weren't you?" Jianchen slightly huffed. He already had some disturbing music playing in his head. You know, when a strange person on the street says that you looked at him funny, Jianchen decided that the guy was just looking for an edge and brushed it off with a smile. "I was going to ask for directions." "Yeah, not anymore." And Werner turned on the "it's not what you thought" mode while attacking Jianchen with all his might. The impact was such that the trees behind Jianchen shattered like straws. Yeah, the guy wasn't from the strolling section. The knight squinted his eyes. An ordinary traveler wouldn't be able to dodge like that, much less repel a blow that would break half of the forest. Jianchen was shocked. How could he have such abilities? He must have gotten a visit from the script force. Werner, realizing that he had been figured out, immediately said, "Aha! You're one of those real hunters. Are you trying to capture me? I knew this day was going to suck. Crystal showed me I was in trouble this morning." Now that's a horoscope in the newspaper prediction. Tina didn't know what was going on at all while the two of them were arguing about their strength and diagnoses, but she knew one thing for sure. Such a handsome man as Werner should not be let go. While our hero tried to explain everything, saying that they were really just passing by without a quest to kill maniacs, but the knight was already seething with rage and suddenly said that he liked women's hands. At this moment, Jianchen tried to realize, was this a metaphor? Or, no, it wasn't a metaphor. Werner took out a severed female hand from behind his back and started licking it as if it were a dessert from a Michelin restaurant. This is where it became very clear. The man explains in all seriousness that he just likes to keep women's hands so that he can touch them whenever he feels like it. And then he says, "Is that a crime?" Well, in his world, apparently not. Chen realized that this guy didn't just have roaches in his head, he had a whole army of armored vehicles. And Tina, though not immediately, also realized Werner is not just weird, he's a maniac. Since the secret was out, Werner decided he wasn't going to let anyone go. He turned on the bloody power as if he was going to star in a horror movie. Jianchen couldn't stand it. "Oh, wait a minute, who even asked you? You told me everything yourself, you psycho." But it was too late. Werner was already on the attack. And at that very second, Jianchen activated his golden scale to repel the attack. That's the kind of encounter in the forest. Someone going for mushrooms and someone with his hands in his backpack. Werner swung his fist, and it didn't look like he was hitting anyone but himself. In the next second, his body began to crack like an old phone screen, and bang, a mini explosion. Jianchen froze in place, staring at the minced meat that was once a knight. He clearly hadn't ordered this on the menu. And Fufu? She had already almost performed her morning ritual of breakfast backwards. Well, in general, the young man realized that it's not appropriate to throw away corpses. We should bury them. Just like that. Simple, every day, with care for nature. When the job was done, he turned to Tina. You saw everything, didn't you? He attacked it himself. If you're questioned, you'll tell me what happened, won't you? And Tina's response, not about the murder. She's wondering if I'm never gonna get married. Like, as soon as she starts liking someone, they either turn out to be crazy or crazy. Like last week, for example, one guy wanted to cut out her heart to give to her daughter. And now this one. That's amazing. She couldn't stand it any longer and threw herself into Jian Chen's arms. Let the whole world wait. At least someone would hug this poor guy. He doesn't even mind, by the way. He even, let's say, likes it. And now, the three of them were already walking out of the forest like a bad role-playing game. On the way, Jian Chen wondered, wait, was it really all because of Xiao Wei's soul? Did his golden scales and absorption fang become stronger due to her spiritual power? Then Fufu woke up and, as usual, switched on the know-it-all mode. Everything. Fufu gives is first class, and the rest of the magic you dig it yourself, you stupid brother. Finally, they reached their destination. It was a beautiful building, like an advertisement about happy people and tax breaks. Jian Chen explained that it was Namel's estate, and there were already 3 people standing at the entrance. A white-haired man, a woman, and someone third. But the young man, like a true introvert, just walked past. If the guards were so formidable, then Namel wasn't the last vegetable on the market. But then a woman called out sharply, "Stop!" and added something like, "No, you can't go head-on like that. You have to do it quietly. It's better to pretend to be a bush." In short, standard NPC strategy, and the next second, bam! The young man notices a familiar face. The fortune teller who had scammed him like a sucker with fate. Favorite student, you say? Well, hello? Fufu also remembered this fortune teller, and while they were mentally running through their options, for revenge, the man with black hair and a spear suddenly jabbed his finger towards Jian Chen. That's her! Grab her! Everyone rushed forward to attack. Jian Chen dodged on reflexes. I'm actually a guy. What are you doing? The white-haired man shouted. Naomel, you've finally been caught. Prepare for trial. And our hero blinked twice. What? Naomel who? Are you sure you have everything on your list? Fufu at this time decided to add fuel to the fire. Whose fault is it that the foolish brother looks suspicious? Spearchucker continued the show. Stop pretending. We know. You're involved in the missing children. And that's when even Fufu hovered. Yeah, that's a twist. But the circus did not end there. The man claimed that the girl, Fufu, was safe now and offered to go with him. Fufu responded by activating a level 1 ultra punishment and gave the guy a good beating. The man was shocked. Why? And Fufu couldn't help it. You're the child. Fufu grew up a long time ago, you penny dreadful. Have you ever seen a child's figure like that? And it seems that the white-haired man saw it because, he blacked out. Must be an overload on all fronts, especially the nosebleeds. And the girl decided to finish him morally. She approached Jian Chen and asked for permission to hit him. Once, for real. Because what she likes most is to hear the criminal's livers crack under her fists. The liver. Yeah, liver. Not bones, liver. I'm sure that's a bid. But Jian Chen didn't wait. He got behind her and slapped her on the head. This is for your own good. As she fell down, she only muttered, if that fist had gotten there, someone would have gone sky high, and it wouldn't have been me. And now, finally, Juita has told me everything. How, why, who owed who, and who went the wrong way. Juita began to justify herself to her master, saying that it was all just a misunderstanding. But Jian Chen was not the kind of person who was interested in the feelings of con artists. He demanded that the money be returned first, and then he could cry on his shoulder. The man with the spear finally remembered his manners. That's it! Looks like we really went a bit overboard. He introduced himself as Leto, the head of the Shadow Hunters. And the Naomel they were looking for was a priest from Duke Upsa's territory. I mean, yeah, a very warm character. Leto began his lecture. I think there's something you should know. Recently, there has been a lot of evidence that Naomel is involved in the disappearance of the children. Looking at Fufu, he added, and that girl is a bit too petite. So we thought, Fufu responded by instantly activating her battle mode. Watch me, old man. If you call me a child again, you'll get ultra punishment. Leto immediately suppressed his gaze. He appeared to be acting on behalf of the Duke and had gathered this squad to investigate. And these two with him are his best trackers. A woman in the squad stated, my decision to join the squad was simple. Even if I beat a criminal to death, I won't get anything for it. If I'm proven guilty, I'll take the full brunt of it. And she even laughed. That's the local version of Judge Dredd. But the white-haired guy with the shield and sword went further. I'm actually for women's rights. How dare he appropriate all these little girls for himself, and I'm only allowed to watch from afar. clearly smells like lolicon. The girl immediately said verbally, and last time when a grown woman was suffering, you were in no hurry to help. The white-haired man, not confused, gave out, after 15 years, women have no rights. Everyone knows that. And that was a phrase that made me want to erase his memory. She's shocked. Shut up! That's disgusting nonsense! You're just a pathetic lolicon! He didn't give up. It's better to be a lolicon than a sadist. Jian Chen watched this buffoonery and only rolled his eyes. One was worse than the other, but that's not what he came for. He wanted the backfill crystal that Lopu had mentioned. Leto, noticing the young man's strength, offered to get involved if Naomal showed up again. Jian Chen nodded. If it's as you say, I'll think about it. Then, Leto suggested exploring the area together, and soon the team arrived at the right place. Jian Chen glanced at Zuida. By the way, we haven't finished talking, right? The latter smiled slyly, hugged him from behind and whispered, I just wanted to lure you here. I cheated a little, so... What? You're an astrologer, she added. You helped Lop. I knew everything beforehand. Prediction is my everything. Even if I lost to a master once, Rita, and yes, call me Rita, always wins. The young man understood everything. The girl knows. How to talk and change names. He made it clear to her at once. When he got the holy crystal, he would not forget his share. Rita's smile faded instantly. Meanwhile, they approached the cave. The sadist, well, the girl from the team, was alert. There was a strange noise ahead. The white-haired man noticed. There was a girl chained to a red crystal in front of them. Alarmed, the sadistic woman frowned. Is that her? The same one Naomal is holding? The man with the shield stated confidently, Poor little girl, you are safe now. You're protected by my big hard shield, and took a step forward. But as soon as he got close, that poor little thing turned into something out of his worst nightmare. She threw the poor thing right into the wall of crystals and attacked. The sadistic woman screamed, What are you waiting for? Do you want to die? Attack! But the moment her fist was about to reach its target, the monster girl struck with her crystals. Fortunately, Leto intervened, his glittering spear piercing the monster. It's a blood crystal golem, he shouted. Leon, attack! Quickly, otherwise we're screwed. But Leon hesitated. I can't hit a little girl like that. In the next second, the girl snatched the spear from Leto's hand and hit him so hard that he flew off like a sack of potatoes. Jian Chen didn't wait. He flew into the fray and chopped the golem in half. The terror girl collapsed to the floor with a crash and crumbled into dust. The young man turned to Leto and said, I hope I'm not mistaken. The old man only nodded. You are truly worthy of the title Lord. Without you, it would have been a complete rout. They looked at the remains. Leto frowned. As expected, it's black sorcery. Except with refinements. What kind of creature is this? And then it finally hit him. Our group, tired of monsters, crystals, and lolicons, finally reached a quiet but ominously peaceful room. The archives. Yes, the bright, very place that usually holds truths that would be better off not being found. Leda, leafing through a dusty old book, remarked gloomily, Perhaps Minar was related to Moray, the same apostle of the Legion of Darkness that had done the deed 20 years ago. Genshin was puzzled. Legion of what? Rita came to the rescue, an expert on everything, especially when no one asked her. She explained, Moray had a dark technique, sacrificing people and turning holy crystals into blood crystals to enhance himself. They say he fought the United Order of Crusaders alone, whacked one of the commanders, and disappeared like a lone defaulter. Leda, frowning, admitted, She's right. It says here that the ritual has been perfected. From the looks of it, Jiang Chen guessed that certain bodies are suited for crystal transformation especially well. And alas, they are children. Yes, everything turned out to be true. Even Leda sighed sadly, too grim even by their standards. Meanwhile, the sadistic girl had found another locked closet, a very seriously secure one, like a black magic safe deposit box. Leda realized, if this is all connected to Moray, we've got to get out of here. Now. But Jin Chen, as always, was against it. God or demon, who cares? Let's open it and take a look. And perhaps for nothing, what they saw inside threw everyone into a stupor. Leda exhaled. It's Moray, no doubt about it. The closet was full of human hands, in containers, in rows, like the collection of a particularly perverted artist. Leda explained, this psycho had a mania for hands. Male, female, whatever. He'd pick a victim and bye-bye hand, without a trace. Jian Chen wondered, had Moray, who had been missing, been living under Namel's guise all this time? Leda finally realized that it was time to retreat. This was not a simple matter, but Jian Chen asked, "Is there anyone among you who has seen Mori or Meinard in person?" And Leda took the hint. The young man had met him before. Jian Chen confirmed, "Yes, and even knew where he was buried." Next, the whole team headed to the tomb of the perverted knight. The young man nodded at her. "Him?" Leda glanced over. "Yes, 20 years ago his portraits were all over the country. That's him for sure. But how did you know where he was buried?" Jian Chen smirked. "Well, we had a conflict. He grabbed me and poof, disappeared." "Fluff?" Leda interjected. Yes, that was the explanation. Short, to the point, Jian Chen's style. Next, there was a sudden change of location. Everyone moved to a luxurious mansion where they sat at the table and ate their lunch. Jian Chen looked at the treats in surprise. "Are all these crystals for me?" He found it hard to believe that Rita had suddenly become so generous. The system immediately displayed an alert. "You have received a key item, a holy crystal." The young man looked at it and thought, "It looks like a real one." And Rita, smiling, slyly said, "Don't worry, master, it's a humble gift from a student. Please take it." Leda stood up and spoke. "Master, you didn't just save us, you saved thousands of families throughout the northern district. Even if I give you all these crystals, it won't be enough." Jian Chen nodded modestly. "Yes, after all, they were mine from the beginning." Then he looked at Rita. "So you still owe me some compensation." But before he could finish, Rita had already jumped out the window. "I'm sorry, master. I remembered that in the East a donkey gives birth. I need my help," she shouted one last time. Jian Chen only sighed. The fox was a fox, but one thing was certain: they would meet again. Later returned to the matter at hand. "As soon as we confirm Namel's identity, the Order of Shadows will contact you, and if you have any requests, please convey them at once." The group dispersed, and Leon, poor guy, wanted to stay, but the sadistic girl grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and dragged him out of the room. Fufu, left with the food, happily realized that everything on the table now belonged to her. Jian Chen only sighed. The piggishness will start again. But no sooner had they enjoyed their meal than a new figure appeared. A stern, confident woman approached and asked a question. "Are you Jian Chen?" He confirmed. "I am forensic investigator Huayan. According to our information, you are suspected of murder." Jian Chen hovered. "Murder? What murder?" Huayan coldly explained. 2 hours ago, Miss Tina was found dead in the eastern forest. Her heart had been cut out. There is a witness claiming that you were the last person to see her." In the same second, Jian Chen remembered. Tina talking about the psycho who dreamed of cutting out her heart. Apparently, she couldn't dodge fate this time. The investigator added, "Come with us. We need to conduct an investigation." Jian Chen refused to go with them. He coldly explained, "I was with the people from the Order of Shadows at that moment. If you want to know the truth, ask them. We know each other, to say the least." But the guy in the investigators' team was not in the mood for conversation. If they said to go, then go. There is no time to talk. The investigator, Huayan, discreetly explained, "The Order of Shadows is just a people's structure. I, on the other hand, represent the Central Imperial Office. And that, young man, is a whole different level." But Jian Chen was unimpressed. "I already told you, it's not me, and I don't have time for you," he thought mentally, wondering if they'd be able to stop him at all. And then the strange thing started. His body suddenly lifted into the air, as if someone had turned on anti-gravity. After a moment, Huayan easily sealed him into the floor. "Those who are caught in my sight will no longer escape." Jian Chen, lying on the floor, was shocked. What's even going on? But the girl was ruthless. "Based on suspicion of murder, disorderly conduct, and lewd behavior, you are under arrest." And voila, our hero found himself in an interrogation cell. "You don't want to talk? Then sit here with me," Huayan said lazily. Jian Chen tried to explain. "Seriously, just ask the Order of Shadows. Everything that needs to be said, I've already said it. It has nothing to do with me." But instead of answering, she ran her finger over his face and whispered, "Since you like sitting here with me so much, I don't mind." He tried to rise, but his body felt heavy, as if concrete had been poured into his legs. Yes, it was her trick again, telekinesis. The girl grinned wickedly. "I'll make you obey me completely." And then he remembered. It was because of this ability that he couldn't move back then. And as luck would have it, Fufu showed up with her usual, "Are you serious?" expression. "You're just now realizing it?" Huayan, on the other hand, calmly continued to finish. "You don't want to kneel? Then the bones will decide for you. But at that moment, someone called out to her. It was unclear who, but the order was clear. Let her go. She didn't understand why, but she obeyed. She walked over, removed his shackles, and said dryly, "Dismissed." As she walked away, however, she came almost right up to him, whispering, "Next time I will truly tame you." And Jianchen grinned as he passed by and replied, "Well, I'm looking forward to it." Suddenly, Huayan's legs went under, and she was surprised to realize that her body was not moving. Jianchen was only smiling. Could it be... Did he have time to use his technique? The judge panics. "I've been immobilized by a suspect. It's a disgrace." But immediately her face flashed. She even liked it. Something had clearly not gone according to plan. Later, still in the same mansion, she walked beside the man and asked, "Why did you let him go?" He said, "They say someone paid a large sum for him." And anonymously, he added with a chuckle, "You know, Huayan, half of our budget is covered by these contributions." The girl sighed heavily. Even so, was it possible to let him go so easily? The man nodded. "I understand. But there's another reason. We have finally completed the true word verification ritual." They came to a locked door, and behind it sat a man in chains. "The result shows the witness lied," he said. Huayan exhaled shockedly. "You mean he didn't see Jianchen kill?" "Yes, he made it up." The man wondered, "Why are you all sweaty, Huayan? Is it hot?" "Well, maybe," she mumbled. Although she knew inside that it was Jianchen's mental pressure, it was too damn hard to deal with. And there he was, the lying witness, the one who had humiliated her in front of everyone. She walked up to him, took the whip in her hand, and asked in an icy voice, "Well, shall we begin then, the marvelous justice?" The man shrieked, realizing that the fun was over, for him. Meanwhile, Jianchen calmly walked out of the mansion. Qingyu was already waiting for him on the threshold. She smiled and said in relief, "You're finally free." He looked at her with warmth. "Thank you for bailing me out, Qingyu." Jianchen still didn't understand how Qingyu even knew where he was. The girl explained that she was looking for him on purpose. The young man was immediately wary, as he could sense that this was not just a matter of romance. Qingyu continued, "Merchants who recently returned from the northern town reported that a war has broken out there." Jianchen raised an eyebrow. "What kind of war?" Qingyu explained. "The Shen family attacked the Zan family and completely blocked the entrance to the city." She couldn't just sit and wait, so she rushed to look for Jianchen, only to find out that he had also been arrested. The young man quickly put the facts together. The attack was sudden. The Shen family had clearly prepared in advance. He nodded. "Thank you, Qingyu. I must return immediately." Fufu, as always with her commentary, cheerfully stated, "Don't worry, Xiaowei is still with them. And even in her childish form, she can take down these clowns blindly." Qingyu, on the other hand, handed Jiancheng the fastest horse. So fast that even the wind was asking for an autograph. The young man was truly impressed by her foresight. This is what I mean by real support. He thanked the girl and asked her to tell Lop. Now his adopted child can rest in peace. Jianchen rode off into the sunset on his super horse. Qingyu looked at him and was happy. He really needed her now. And Fufu looked at all this with an expression of, "What do you see in him anyway?" And only then realized that she had forgotten to get on. The horse. "What a fool," she muttered, and sprinted off in pursuit. Elsewhere, meanwhile, some suspicious man, a maniacal tactician by the looks of it, was thinking, all the traps the people set up, the division of the squads, it was all leading up to this. Finally, we got him. He recalled a conversation with a man. "From the prison, Jianchen is moving towards Quaisan City. He must be stopped. I will." "I'll do my best," the man replied. Without emotion, it was as if they were discussing the serving of borscht instead of murder. The white-haired commander rejoiced like a child with an ice cream cone. "We've blocked the pass. We have 3 times as many men, and Ruka has 0 chance. The plan is genius. So am I." Meanwhile, elsewhere, where Sister Lu and Auntie Meng were, things weren't as fun. They were surrounded by a bunch of horny men. "What should we do?" Lulu asked in a panic. Auntie Meng coldly replied, "You are skilled in both martial techniques and seduction charms. It's time to see who's who." The men laughed. "She says she can seduce. Come on, pretty girl, show me. Maybe I'll fall in love and take you as a concubine." They laughed. Lulu was already on the verge. She wouldn't make a lover, but she would be a fiery fire. And at the same time, the white-haired commander, looking at the gorge, calmly reported, "The remnants of the Zan family are pinned down. A fly won't get through. As soon as reinforcements arrive, we will wipe them out." Meanwhile, Xiao Wei had already annihilated some of the enemies. She looked at this great army and only snorted. Seriously? With this kind of strength, you decided to fight the Zan family? It's not even funny. Even in her mini form, Xiao Wei could take everyone out with a single blow, but she decided to save her strength for the day. It was better to wait for night, like in good anime. But then, something alerted her. She felt the approach of an unusually strong enemy. These are no ordinary soldiers. Is my lord's real enemy approaching? She wondered, and without waiting for a reply, she activated her power and snapped toward the danger. Xiao Wei arrives at his destination and looks around at the large building. She decides that it is necessary to defeat her opponent with one powerful blow. Using his strength, Xiao Wei uses the Roar of Bloody Madness attack. Her attack results in a massive explosion that engulfs the surrounding area. One of the family's guards notices what's going on and wonders who it was that attacked. This same guard thinks that the Shen family was able to attract really strong masters. Elderly master, Shen with a book, notices that these are the long-awaited reinforcements. He acknowledges the authority of their family's elders and notes that even the reinforcements from Lingjun-san look impressive. The guard in the white cloak reacts with consternation at what is happening. Xiao Wei feels that the pressure from the attack still hasn't gone away. Ace, a blue wolf with wings, appears in a cloud of smoke and is in pain. Issa rebukes the evil spirits for their meanness, for they attack stealthily. Xiao Wei notices Pai Isa and thinks it's just a fat cat. Pai Asu is indignant, replying that he is a tiger, the demon reasoned, wondering how many lives this cat had taken after her blow. The King of Beasts offers to test how many more lives he has left. They begin a new exchange of attacks. Ace unleashes a powerful blue attack. There is another large outbreak that strikes the area. The master with the book is surprised by the appearance of another strong opponent and assumes that Lingjun has sent two masters at once, Xiao Wei and P.E.'s. Battle continues with renewed vigor. As the bout progresses, Xiao Wei manages to land a strike on P.A.'s. The master with the book orders the fight to stop and calls for the fight to stop. The King of Beasts begins to wonder who is in front of him. The master with the book asks if they are reinforcements from Mr. Lingjun and insists that the destruction of the Jin family cannot be delayed, so he asks them to follow him. Xiao Wei and Pai Ace look over while discussing Mr. Lingjun's name and are surprised that it's about destroying the Jin family. Siro, master suspects that something is wrong with this situation. In the end, our couple decided to attack the old man with the two of us. Meanwhile, Zan Chen appears and quickly rushes on his horse to the scene. Fufu, the elfess, rides along with him, explaining that she's saving her strength since she hasn't eaten and might pass out soon. Zan Chen asks Fufu about the Wailing Queen, suspecting that she said something about her. Fufu denies it and claims to know nothing about the queen. Zan Chen admits that the name is familiar to him, but can't remember the details. Soon, a horse runs past them at some sort of hyperspeed. Both of them fall to the ground. Zan Chen is in a daze, lying upside down after falling, trying to understand what happened. The unicorn notes that they are now to harvest the fruit of spiritual energy, and he's already getting sick of what's going on. The young man scolds the horseback rider for speeding, reminding him that it is forbidden to do so. The horse makes the excuse that it's not his fault. If it's hard for the others to go, it's not his problem. He adds that if everyone was like him, they would have gotten there a long time ago. But Jian Chen clarifies that he caused his horse to die. Who's going to be responsible for all this? He's in a hurry to get home. Qingling, that white self-confident horse with a fancy mane, shows his character while Zan Chen and company watch from a safe distance like two circus acts. Qingling excuses himself to Zan Chen, saying that he doesn't have time to travel at all. Right now, he has urgent, incredibly important horse business. Apparently, the universal horse business is a sacred thing. At the same second that horse roared that only his horseshoes glistened. Qingling recalls that spiritual fruit ripens once. Every 10 years, it's urgent to harvest it. For the sake of such events, even a horse can have an emergency. Qingling, all emotional, doesn't understand. What is this strange guy who is invading his personal spatial orbit even up to? The young man was enraged. First, this evil-looking man had run over the poor horse. Now he was going to run away somewhere at all. Zan Chen seriously advises Qingling to retake the exam on falls, because such a somersault even in the circus would be rated an A. Qingling's inner world is torn apart. He doesn't understand what planet this guy is from and why he's talking such nonsense. The horse thought to himself, since the young man was so fast, he could run home by himself. But there was a philosophical question. Was this Zan Chen really a person at all? Sinlin is shocked. The horse has an average speed, and here some humanoid manages to not only catch up with him, but also catch him. What's the code of the universe looking at? Zan Chen offers a deal. Qingling will be his personal horse and drive him home. All is fair. What could be more humiliating for a divine beast? Sinlin is speechless. He's a freaking wonder beast, and they grab him by the mane and call him a horse. Qinglin's indignation reaches a new level. How dare such a noble being be required to take on such lowly duties? Even the emperors, by the way, bowed to him 3 times each. And finally, isn't that red-eyed bipedal parasite a bit much? It's like the hero's got a lot of nerve. Zan Chen has an argument for everything. He will persuade until he gets his way, and if you don't, he has the perfect look for intimidation. After such a look, even the divine beast gives up. It's okay. It's okay, no problem. Sometimes it's easier to give up than to argue. Having calmed down, Zan Chen gives the coordinates. The path keeps to the Jin family's estate, the northern city, so go ahead to new feats and, most importantly, more drama. Zan Chen solemnly walks off into the distance on the back of an angry but already resigned Qingling. We move on to the majestic castle and a strange crater in the lawn. Someone has clearly parked carelessly here. A wise-cracking man appears at the entrance with an ice wolf behind him. He politely asks what he could have done to cause such a reaction from the hosts of the neighborhood. The man wastes no time. He apologizes immediately for potential offenses, just so there are no unnecessary sacrifices. A model of diplomacy. But the huge wolf is clearly skeptical of such an apology. You can't even purr back. The response to an apology is an energy punch that leaves no chance for dialogue. The poor old man is sent flying halfway across the palace. The architecture, of course, has never been tested. Panic begins in the hall. The guards are terrified to report. The elder is in danger. It is urgent to rescue this golden leadership. As the knights crumple, Xiao Wei appears, clearly no less aggressive than the energy wolf. She uses the roar of bloody madness which makes the guardsmen make cute squeals in panic. Well, you'd panic at a show like that too. Elder Jian was shocked. What was all the commotion? Did the enemy finally decide to attack openly, and he was so eager to sleep for another 5 minutes? The old man, of course, after all this commotion, gives his trademark cage. Unable to handle the heat of the moment, the old man tries to negotiate. There are no claims or debts. Why attack? He also boasts of his acquaintance with some gentlemen. Diplomacy on the level of, my dad is a director. The opponents would instantly recognize him. It was the same bastard Shen Yang. Well, he got himself into trouble, so he'll have to answer for it. P. Isa, the blue-winged wolf, steps up to the problem, smiling menacingly. It would make the bravest of the brave lose their nerve. The skirmish heats up. The clan leader asks P. Ace why he came looking for trouble. Chen is under their protection. They will stand for him to the end. Pai Isa suddenly gives out a respectful ritual. He calls his opponent Uncle N and defiantly bows. Respect of the level of Olympic champion in politeness. Jian En didn't understand what was going on here. How could this wolf be related to him now? Pai Isa explains, Zan Chen saved his mother, which means he's now the elder for the wolf, to be respected, no matter how you look at it. And your status? You're like my uncle in the hierarchy, that's family logic. Everyone forget genealogy, there are new rules. Uncle hadn't expected that even the beasts here were well versed in human family ranks. The lessons of family ties had clearly not gone to waste. Of course, there will always be someone who says, I told you I was right that day. Because no magical beating is complete without one I told you so. It turned out that when the couple was fishing by the lake, one of them noticed a tiger behind a tree. However, the other calmed him down by saying that he had only frightened away the fish by worrying, and that P. Asa was hiding behind the tree. Xiao Wei introduced herself as Vivian and explained that Zan Chen had assigned her to guard the Jiang family's house. When Pai Isa realized that she was his own, he wondered why she didn't say so right away. And Xiao Wei explained that he himself was hiding as an enemy, and it was hard to tell if he was a friend or not. The other man was surprised that she calls Zan Chen Sir. He wants to know what it means, but Xiao Wei evades a direct answer. Xiao Xiu. Wei reveals that she and Zan Chen had a special close contract, and he likes it when she calls him that. The man resents that such behavior is inexcusable, although he does not interfere in young Zan Chen's personal affairs, assuring that he will try to take care of everything since it came to the girl. He decides that if he marries, let it be by all the rules, so that he can honorably welcome her into the Jiang family. Xiao Wei is struck by his kindness. Suddenly, something unexpected startles Xiao Wei. The company with P. Ace is alert and asks who is approaching. Zan Chen arrives riding Qingling and declares not to make up tall tales. What other contract? The protagonist expresses his displeasure at being addressed as master. Zan Chen checks with his uncle to see if everything is okay at home. The uncle says that everything was saved by the help of these two, for they were attacked unexpectedly. It is shown how the old man was bested. Zan Chen warns that the attack on the Zhang family is dangerous and demands to think about the consequences. The enemy philosophizes that the strong win and the weak perish, and hints that Zan Chen's sister might be subjected to the same. Zan Chen is troubled by his sister's fate. The heroes hit the road in PA. Zan Chen decides that if anything happens to Lulu or Auntie, the enemy will pay for it 100 times over. Old man remembers that he left the Shen family's best fighters on the pass and doesn't understand how the two women are going to stand up to them. He hurries things along, suspecting that soon the women will be begging for death. Xiaowei calls the old man a bastard. She asks permission to use a forbidden technique and sever his soul so that the enemy will suffer even after death. Zan Chen suggests looking at the situation first before acting. The women and the enemy find themselves in different positions. One asks for mercy, the other would prefer death. Zan Chen anxiously calls out to Lulu. The scene happens to Lulu. A man rushes up to her and begs her to kill him. Auntie Meng uses an unusual ability to affect the enemy. The man's heart melts. He can't resist. He enthusiastically throws himself forward to prove his loyalty. A man admits he's willing to die for his queen. He vows to be ready for anything. He begs Lulu to hurry before he falls victim to the hippo and asks her to finish with him. Lulu decides to honor the request. In the same second, strikes a devastating blow. The man thanks her and, disappearing, tells her he is now free. Zan Chen rushes over to Lulu to make sure she's okay. Lulu rushes to her brother, sharing her fear, and he comforts her. Asa ponders that, by the force of Lulu's blow, it's unlikely that any of the locals could scare her. The old man asks himself in wonder why it turned out this way. One of the elders from the Shen clan is amazed at the weakness of his fighters and expresses bewilderment as to why they fight so poorly. After all, they are the elite. One of the wounded replies that it is not the fear of death, but the fact that even with all their efforts, the brothers could not wound the enemy. The older man does not understand what he is talking about. The man explains that Lulu has amazing strength. Her punches seem chaotic, but they are very dangerous. Lulu does fight so boldly and unexpectedly that the fighters don't have time to react. Opponents panic trying to escape from Lulu, asking her not to approach them. Lulu watches the fleeing enemies indifferently, showing no emotion. The man points to another fearsome figure. He only needs to hear the voice to immediately lose the will to fight. In the end, the warriors couldn't even die honorably, and one of them sobs in despair at Auntie Meng's feet. Zan Chen informs Elder Shen that they will not receive a dignified death for their actions. The elder admits defeat, noting that Zan Chen had won today, and the Shen clan had already paid a very high price. The elder begs for mercy, promising to never set foot on Zan Chen's land again. He recalls that one of their ancestors has influence in the court of Lord Flawless, but the Beast King coldly interrupts him, abruptly sending his opponent away. He's angry at the old man who's been hiding behind the older man's back the whole time, and finally didn't hold back. Zan Chen was intent on questioning the elder and finding out more, but he was overpowered. Qinling, a white horse with a yellow mane, asks if he can go home, for the business here is finished. The protagonist realizes with a smile that he has completely forgotten something important. He offers Qinlin a long-term contract, promising a welfare package and paid vacation, noting that the latter is far more reliable than any means of teleportation. Sinlin refuses, saying she would rather throw herself off a cliff or starve to death than allow herself to be ridden again. Qinlin says goodbye to all the people who humiliated him, leaves them, and lest the young man ride him again, he vanished from sight in a flash. Zan Chen sadly thinks that because of his current rank, he can't fly yet, and it's unknown when he will achieve it. Mentally, he recalls what he had heard about Lord Flawless recall info. Mr. Flawless is the main boss of the high-level dungeon Ice Gift in the game Phantasmere, God's Abode. Zan Chen remembers that this character was the game's chief whiner and killed his father, but he missed other plot details. Xiaowei wonders if Flawless will stage a coup and attack King Lawton. The young man says that it was in the newspapers everywhere. However, Auntie Man shows up and claims that King Lawton is still alive. Zan Chen doesn't hide his surprise and asks what's going on. He demands an explanation from Fufu, the elf woman, but she herself doesn't know. Fufu sarcastically advises Zan Chen to think with his head. The character's reasoning is that there are two options. Either the game lore has changed, or there is another option. Qingling reaches the place at this time, and happily announces that he has finally arrived. He feels tired and declares that he needs to eat at least a dozen juicy spiritual fruits. Sinlin walks through the forest in search of fruit. His gaze suddenly becomes anxious. Qinlin discovers the bodies of the animals at the tree with the fruit, and realizes that they have been poisoned. He ponders, for spiritual fruit cannot be poisonous in nature. Someone has purposely defiled the tree, but why? Qingling recalls that before, no one dared to go near the tree because the fruit was the Qingling family's favorite treat. Today, he was not around, so it was an accident. He comes to a conclusion. If it wasn't for Zan Chen, he would be the one lying in the place of the dead right now. Realizing the danger makes Qingling feel grateful to fate for meeting Zan Chen. Sinlin leaps forward in terror, rapidly running away from the danger. Qinlin realizes that someone wants him dead, so he decides to flee immediately. His desire to survive causes him to speed up. Against a backdrop of disturbing clouds, a majestic castle emerges in which important events unfold. This is the Palace of Impeccability. The atmosphere inside the castle is cold and formal. The young man, astonished and agitated, rebukes the lord of the palace, wondering why he has not been helped despite his promises. He explains that the Zhou clan has fallen in battle, and reminds them that they once helped this lord themselves. The hero also mentions the promise of support against Mei Chen. The lord of the palace indifferently states that the old man is mistaken, implying that the confusion was due to a misunderstanding. The palace owner stands up, preparing for further conversation. He explains that he only promised to support if possible, but in no way guaranteed help, trying to distance himself from the request. The gentleman demands to stop complaining about nothing, and asks if his interlocutor has been sufficiently understood. The man is confused and anxious at the harsh words of his interlocutor, and you can see the tension in his face. He, frightened, apologizes for his emotions and asks to remember their friendship, begging them not to lose their rapport. The man, trembling with fear, tried to justify himself to Mr. Unsullied. He apologized to Mr. Flawless, as if apologizing would save him from disintegration. Yeah, as if apologizing saved from disintegration. Flawless, shining like a holy lantern, replied calmly that once in a harsh winter, his army had almost starved to death, and this man had fed them. So he had not forgotten the old kindness and was going to help. And yes, spoiler, that help sounded too ominous to be a kind gesture. The man, already sitting on the floor in a posture of complete gratitude, praised him. You are the embodiment of honor, justice, and other beautiful words from pathos speeches. But then, the flawless one raises his golden hand, literally shining, not a figure of speech, and does not give it to him, but lifts him off the floor himself. A seemingly merciful thing to do? Here we go. And then there's a twist. Flawless looks at the man with a cold stare and says, "You are the last of the Zhou clan. There is no point in you being alive. I'll help you join the others." Well, thanks for the warning. The man's in shock, begging for mercy, but too late. In the next instant, boom, and the remnants of clothes, flesh, and trust in kind words are flying around the hall. The flawless one wipes an invisible speck of dust off his shoulder and grumbles irritably, saying that his servants are completely brainless. How could they let such a man in? They bow in response, apologize, and promise not to do it again, but the trust has already been blown up along with the poor man's body. Next, a figure in a black robe enters the scene, a grim grandfather with a magic ball in his hands. Flawless looks at him and sarcastically says, "Hog, don't think this doesn't concern you. You're not accomplishing your tasks, you're ruining the mood. Catching one mermaid and a Keelan is too hard for you?" The old man bowed his head, admitted his mistake, but said there was a clue. The old man bowed his head and admitted his mistake, but he said, "There is a clue." He said that on the day when Chunyun Lake was in turmoil, a suspicious man had appeared there, and he might have helped Shen escape. The old man displayed an image of Jian Chen and that very same mermaid, holding a balloon like a lantern from the future and speaking as if Sherlock had retired. He added, the site of the failed operation felt the same spiritual waves as Jian Chen's. It was probably all his doing, or maybe he was sent by someone to disrupt the whole thing. Flawless tensed. Was this the old bastard he'd been thinking of? But he waved his hand and mumbled that he didn't have time for that now. The army of darkness was already breathing down his neck. It was urgent to catch the key figures. I reminded him that it was time to start the task as well. The old man just nodded. Everything is already in process. Yes, as always, in process. And then again, he ran away. And now to our favorite, Jian Chen. Mr. Flawless said without blinking an eye, he must be destroyed. Without any unnecessary drama, just wipe him off the face of the world. Without hesitation, the old man added, not only Jian Chen, everything that has anything to do with him will be sent straight to the dustbin of history. What a corporate approach to purging personnel. Meanwhile, in a new and, judging by the hero's face, not the most comprehensible place, Jian Chen was scratching his head in a puzzled manner. The map of this world was clearly not what he was used to in the game. Apparently, the navigator had hit fantasy level, hardcore. He assumed that the action took place before the main storyline from God's Abode Phantasm World. Fufu, shining like a Christmas garland, confirmed, bingo, even a dumbass. Bro has bright moments. And since it's such a holiday, she promised another award. Apparently, motivation works. Then P.E., the king of the beasts, appears. He politely excused himself, saying that he couldn't keep his mother waiting and that he had a lot of work to do. But suddenly, a shiny object materializes in Jian Chen's hands. It's pure Monday magic. Jian Chen looked at Fufu. What kind of thing is this? It looked like a teething toy. Since it looked like that, he threw it to P.E. like a ball to a dog without a second thought. The Beast King was delighted. He didn't wag his tail, but he had the appropriate expression on his face. It was a rank 6 artifact, the Piece of Void. Technique, not a toy, but a real dental delight. He didn't believe that Jian Chen had really given such a thing for nothing, but he assured him that it would come in handy, especially considering his bite problems. What's the point? It's useful as for further training. Jian Chen delegated everything to Lulu and Aunt Meng, but he called Xiao Wei closer. She, of course, understood everything in her own way and started blushing. Master, you're maybe not in public? As if he was going to make her stroke his mushroom, not show off her skills. In response, a light nudge. Jian Chen sighed and reminded, hey, stop talking nonsense. Xiao Wei grabbed her head. It hurt, by the way. But while she was suffering, he had already activated a special skill. A purple aura pulsed in his hand. He explained that the technique was ideal for evil spirits. And then, bam, the second edition of Xiao Wei is here. Yes, her copy had appeared. She looked at what was happening and seemed to have already thought of how she would serve twice as faithfully. Well, at least someone's happy. The team is back on the road again. The goal now was to gain admission to the next rank. Although, to be honest, Jian Chen was beginning to worry. Why was he the only one who had to pass this fantastic exam? Fufu just shrugged her shoulders and gave out a pathetic quote from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Oh yeah, she added. Dummy brother, haven't you ever watched the classics? And on that note, our gang made it to the next plot checkpoint, Lingguan City. The young man mumbled thoughtfully to himself, in order to qualify for the next rank, you have to pass a test in a dungeon mysteriously named Falling Moon Disk. But first, he had to get the pass. Where? Lingguan, of course. And then he felt an electric shock. Wait, Lingguan, that's right. At the same time, in this very same city, the beautiful and strict Lady Judge Huanan flapped her eyes in surprise as she was informed that Mr. Flawless himself had assigned her a task. And since such a god of management personally ticked the box, it means that you have to give 146%. Heroine with a temper, it will be hot. Nearby, as usual, Fufu was already making plans to steal something tasty. Meanwhile, the judge noticed Jian Chen and was shocked, to say the least. Like, what's he doing here? He was supposed to be wiped off the map. At this time, Jian Chen connected all the dots in his head and remembered that Lingguan was the same capital that Flawless had once slaughtered, even before he had killed his father. The chronology is murky, but one thing is certain. The city may soon become a bloody mess, and maybe the locals should be warned, or at least hinted to buy more bandages. He turned to Fufu and asked, what if I change the course of events? What would happen? What's supposed to happen in the story? To which Fufu shrugged her shoulders. She doesn't know. She'll answer later, as usual, like, I'm allowed, I'm a girl. Jian Chen was on the verge of exploding. She was as useful as an umbrella in a typhoon, but there was nowhere to retreat. Duke Lair was the next target. Although Madam Judge was still watching Jian Chen as if he had just stolen the last of her dumplings. At the entrance to the Duke's mansion, there are formidable guards, as they should be. They said that the Duke doesn't accept anyone without an invitation. But Jian Chen, without blinking an eye, said, I'm not a guest. I'm here to get a pass to the Falling Moon Disk trial. The guards clapped their eyes, as this was the first time they had heard of such a pass. Then he explained, it's a license. A piece of paper that gives you the right to risk your life. Well, a standard. And since they won't let him in, maybe one of them could run down and bring this piece of paper. But the guards are strict. Forbidden. One more step and it'll hurt. Well, you've got the wrong guy. Jian Chen, completely calm, walked past saying, all right, don't sweat it. Just do your work and I'll go in myself. But the guards decided that they were heroes today and drew their weapons. One declared, I've got dragon flames here. Last chance, move back. In the next second, he released a powerful energy charge, but Jian Chen, as if in a movie, intercepted the attack and threw it back, throwing the guard away like a wet rag. At that moment, a man in expensive attire, the Duke's butler, emerged from the shadows. He introduced himself first and then asked who the hell this guy was. You could see it in his eyes. He was as surprised as we were. One hit and the Dragon Flame Guard is knocked out? That's at least 4th or even 5th rank. The young man introduced himself, Jian Chen. No titles, I just came to get a pass. The butler politely replied, Sir, this is not a good time. We have a, how should I put it, problem here. But Jian Chen had no intention of leaving. Trouble? Then it's even more interesting. He offered to see for himself. Duke Lair himself appeared in the main hall. He greeted everyone present, called it an honor, and got straight to the point. His daughter is gravely ill, and he is willing to pay any price to have her cured. You want gold? Take it. You want the title? Take it. You want, well, I'm willing to sacrifice my life if it'll help. He invited several people to come into the room. One of them, winking, asked, maybe if I cure her, I'll get not only the gold but the daughter herself. Typical cheapskate. But the fun was quickly over. Inside was not a girl, but a dead man in chains. An eerie, almost demonic figure, and it reeked of darkness. The blonde man was shocked. He looked at the Duke with disbelief and asked again, really? SIS month? The Duke nodded with a stone face and calmly explained, we're talking about a plague of the living dead. Yes, he is aware of what is happening to his daughter. Yes, he knows there is nothing he can do to help her. All he can do is pray and hope for a miracle. Though, judging by the crowd's reaction, everyone here had more faith in their feet than in heaven. People rushed to the exit as if someone had announced a survival discount. One of the frightened ones shouted that he didn't want to become a monster like that. And then, in the best tradition of spectacular exits, a girl with white hair and a big bust appeared. A pathos light, a serious look, and a statement that sounded like the start of a quest. Duke Lair, I'm willing to give it a try. A golden light flashed in her hands and her voice sounded confident. I will invoke the holy glow and put Ms. Cece out of her misery. The Duke, all emotional, exclaimed, if Ms. Xue is really willing to help, that's just great. Well, who wouldn't be happy when someone with at least some sort of plan suddenly appeared? She stretched her hand forward and, no, not a heart, but a light. But somehow the light, it didn't come. It didn't even respond. Apparently it was busy. The girl tried again and there was silence. It happens. Magic is a capricious thing. Meanwhile, Jian Chen appeared behind him, watching the scene with a, I've seen this before look. He remembered that Flawless would slaughter this entire city in the future because the plague would follow a chain. 1 infects 10, 10 infects 100, and after a couple days the entire city would start eating brains. It's beautiful. Flawless wanted to save everyone at first, but ended up, well, slaughtered everyone, including his own father. A nice family ending, nothing to say. Jian Chen sighed. Yes, it was sad. But actually, Flawless was just infantile and weak, not a heroic tragedian. Meanwhile, the girl has apologized to the Duke, saying that all she can do is give her daughter peace. The Duke panics. What? Kill his child? She's still a human being, his beloved daughter. Xue calmly explained, if we don't stop her now, the entire city will suffer. And at that moment, Jian Chen said something brilliant from behind. What's the big deal? We'll just put a shadow on it and we'll be good to go. The Duke hovered, not realizing who was in front of him. The girl was also puzzled. What shadow? I guess they don't watch ninja anime, and the young man thought to himself, no surprise. Players enter this world after the invasion of the Dark Army, when magic is already at the level of Kamui with home delivery. And here, the people are still just learning how to connect with dogs, literally. Naruto Anime Volmer 1. Jian Chen activated the shadow technique, and in the next moment the Duke's daughter flew into the air and the chain scattered into dust. A dark clot flew out of the girl's mouth and, miracle, her eyes became normal again. She fell to the floor, looked up and asked, Daddy, what happened to me? And the Duke, sobbing, rushed over to her. His girl had returned. Jian Chen simply nodded. Mission accomplished, zombie maiden saved. He pondered. From the looks of it, great magicians already existed in this time as well. For example, Shu Sonya, the Legend of Light. And here she was, the same one who had approached him and said, "Sir, can you tell me what this technique is? I want to learn it too. Please teach me." So he looks into her shining eyes and thinks, "Oh, if you weren't in the Manhwa," he explained, "to learn shadow magic, you have to give up everything you've been taught about light." And in her case, it was like asking a saint to break his own icon. But the girl was adamant. "In order to save people, I, Shu Song, will do anything." Jian Chen was already anticipating the epic, but he suddenly realized she was actually refusing the light. In order to defeat the plague, she is willing to move into darkness. I, Shu Sonya, am willing to give up light and learn shadow magic if it will save others. The young man was in a stupor. She would become a legendary saint in decades to come, and now she was asking him for shadow magic? What the hell is going on here? But while he was digesting the absurdity, Duke Lair personally handed Jian Chen a pass to the secret dungeon, along with the Duke's badge. The added bonus, ask for whatever you want. Everything, even slippers, but Jian Chen didn't know what he wanted yet. He said that if anything, he would come back later. The Duke and the butler burst into tears as if they were watching a soap opera. They thanked. "The palace is forever indebted to you, Master Jian." Shui, still shining with faith, asked again, "Master Jian, why don't you want to teach me shadow magic? I'm ready. I'll try my best. Be patient and not give up." Jian Chen lightly coughed, too assertive a disciple, and said, "I just don't think you have to go down that path. Concentrate on the light. Maybe you'll find a way to defeat the plague. Your own way." But the girl replied sadly, "The light has not responded, and if I meet the infected again, I will be helpless." Jian Chen then said that perhaps the problem wasn't magic at all, but self-belief. Those words made her think, "Thank you, Master Jian. Even though you don't wear light, you can see much clearer than I can." The girl knelt down, crossed her arms at her chest, and said with a penitent expression, "I have sinned. I apologize. The light may be able to purify the plague," but I hesitated. I was too weak. Jian Chen looked at her, and there was perhaps even something warm inside him. He was glad that she understood everything. "If she understood, then go back to your light. I wouldn't be a saint ninja anyway." Sonya, shining like a Christmas window, said, "Thank you. I will definitely try my best. I hope you will give me another instruction the next time I see you." When she left, Jian Chen exhaled with relief. Well, it's not that I don't want to teach her at all, but turning a saint into a shadow shinobi? I can't do that. Although I admit, it would look spectacular. He turned to Fufu and asked, "I hope these plot edits don't lead to an apocalypse, because you can expect anything from this fucking system." But Fufu is in his own world as usual, more specifically in the world of dumplings. She stared at the counter where the vendor was arguing with the white-haired rent demon. "What rent? I paid it last month," the salesgirl yelled. "That's right. Last month you paid for this quarter, and now you're paying for next year. It's all logical." "Or get out of here," the businessman calmly parried. Typical thug. "Made it up, you believe it level argumentation." Fufu couldn't take it anymore and flew right into his face. "Hey, you asshole extortionist, where did you lose your conscience?" The bandit didn't even realize where the little fury had come from. "Who the hell are you? Get out of my way!" Reached out to her with his hand, but he was immediately punched in the arm by Jian Chen. His fingers probably didn't exist anymore. "What are you doing? This isn't the countryside. You raised your hand on me in Lingguan. Do you even know who I am?" "I'll find out now," Jian Chen said and took out a Duke token. The bandit turned pale, exhaled something like, "Didn't know, sorry," and turned on cockroach mode, running off into the sunset. After the show, Jian Chen turned to the saleswoman. "Well, let's have some dumplings, and what kind of sauce? Soy, matcha, barbecue." Fufu, of course, wanted everything at once. Her appetite was bigger than the plot twists and turns. Meanwhile, Jian Chen turned to the darkness behind him without chewing. "Judge, stop hiding." Judge Huanan popped up, shocked. "How did you find me?" "I was in perfect disguise." "Yeah, only the breasts didn't fit in the disguise, and the bag over his head didn't save him." So Ling Yuan was right. "A plague has indeed broken out in Lingguan," she said seriously. She said that in addition to the case of the Duke's daughter, there was also a contaminated source outside the city. Since Jian Chen had dealt with the first one so skillfully, it was time to deal with this one as well. But he abruptly refused. "Your imperial affairs are none of my business. Let them clean up their own mess." With those words, he took the dumplings from Fufu, starting to eat them with gusto. Fufu was furious. Taking food away from Fufu was like signing your own sentence. The young man thought, helping all sorts of heroes, wasting energy, and in the end getting kicked in the neck? No way, no way. And then a little girl came up to him. Mommy said to give you this. Thank you for your help with the bad uncle, and held out a plate of dumplings. Jianchen froze. He looked at the girl, then at his mom, and something inside him trembled. Judge, where is this contaminated source? Huanan could barely contain her joy. He had changed his mind, and soon they found themselves in a scenic spot, which, alas, turned out to be the epicenter of the contagion. Are you sure you can handle it? She asked. Just watch. In the next second, the plague began to dissipate as if by magic. The judge was shocked. He really cleared everything, but Jianchen frowned. He felt that there were still dozens of such sources around Lingguan, and each one required a bunch of spiritual energy? Turn around, he said. I have an idea. Is this some kind of forbidden technique? She asked. And so she turned around, and then she heard a very strange sound. Are you peeing? The judge asked in complete shock. Why? Jianchen said calmly. I've been putting up with it since this morning. You don't want me to screw up right at the time of cleaning, do you? At this moment, Huanan, all stern guardian of the law, shouted, This is a violation of public order. Confiscate the weapon. No, not the tool you might be thinking of, pervert. And then Jianchen felt a sudden rush of bloodlust, as if someone had gotten on the wrong side of the bed, and that bed was the altar of sacrifice. The next second, an unknown masked man swooped down on him. Jianchen immediately realized there was no spiritual energy. There was no way to blink. That's it. The classic reloading at the right moment. He had already mentally said goodbye to his life, but the blow didn't hit him. At the last moment, Huanan intervened, activating telekinesis and pinning both the enemy and poor Jianchen to the ground, who didn't realize why he had been hit in the face by gravity in the first place. You've been misbehaving in front of an officer, she said sternly. I have every right to question you. Jianchen was in culture shock. He realized this witch was just taking revenge. What for was a mystery, whether it was for the dumplings, or because he was breathing, or just because she could. Meanwhile, Huanan formally introduced herself. I am Officer Huanan. Surrender immediately. Then I will personally take you to my special interrogation room. Yes, it sounds both scary and like the beginning of an 18+ anime. The enemy, contrary to expectation, stood up despite the gravitational pressure. He tore toward her with a phrase, You are not the target. Get out of my way. But Huanan only frowned. Aha! Now! And expanded her telekinetic field. The opponent was immobilized for a second, because a moment later he had already moved behind her back. Your ability only works within range. The girl did not give up, repeated the technique. But the killer realized that if he broke out of the zone, he was free. He was thrashing, twitching, preventing her from concentrating. However, it didn't help. They caught him after all. And then Huanan said ominously, Do you think I don't beat criminals because I'm weak? Ha! She hummed and added, It's the other way around. I can barely contain my monstrous strength and, whoosh! With a clatter, she sealed it into the ground, leaving a new landmark in the floor. If the perpetrator dies before his time, she said, then what's the fun in it at all? But the show didn't end there. The assassin, having fallen down, abruptly, broke free and rushed towards Jianchen. Jianchen was just sitting there eating dumplings. Fufu was quietly dying inside at this point. It was her dumplings. But the hero had a strong argument. I need it more. I'm post-fight. I'm restoring mana, so to speak. The killer screamed as he walked. So, you decided to have a good meal before you die, huh? Jianchen was not confused. He left one dumpling for the enemy and activated telekinesis. The assassin realized the young man has this ability too. But even if he gets hit, he's still dead. And then, a dumpling comes flying. Powerful. It's pumped up. It circles around Huanan like a skilled sniper, and with a deafening boo, it flies into the enemy, right in the forehead. -1. You didn't even try to dodge? Jianchen was surprised. It's a re-evaluation, brother. The enemy is defeated. Jianchen rummaged through his pockets, hoping to find something worthwhile. And, miraculously, a token. Fufu? What the hell? He asked. Fufu gave a lazy look. Tahi doesn't even have a tenth of what I'm giving you, but Huanan was interested, grabbed the token and whispered with rounded eyes, This is the badge of Mr. Flawless's personal guard. How did he get it? She assumed the enemy had killed one of the guards, but Jianchen shook his head. Yes, it was the unsullied one himself who sent him to kill me. What? Why? Huanan aghast. I have no idea. One of the bastards from the Shen family said something about him before he died. He was serving the Unsullied One. Huan digested all of this and decided to report the matter. Especially since Jian Chen had just cleaned the source of the contagion, he now had an official credit to the Empire. When the Unsullied One finds out everything, he'll definitely forget about the personal grudge, and maybe even reward you with a girlfriend, she said dreamily, and then she added, he's the kindest, the most generous, the most caring. I even became an officer to follow in his footsteps. Jian Chen almost choked at this moment. He knew who your perfect, flawless one was. He knew that he wasn't white and fluffy, and that he was the one who had slaughtered an entire city, and now he's sending assassins. Jian Chen cast a glance at the surroundings and said carelessly, by the way, I didn't have time to clean up all of Lingguan's infected sources, so go ahead and alert the locals. Tell them to start preparing for evacuation. And then, not missing an opportunity to tease someone, he threw a stone at Flawless. He's a son of a bitch, and he'll turn the city into ashes. Huanan blinked incomprehensively. Sonny? Who are you talking about right now? You'll find out. Soon. Very soon, Jian Chen replied with a mysterious mien, as if it was a trailer for the next episode. And then there's the transfer to the Imperial Palace. Jian Chen walked out of the forest and philosophized. If the Emperor's son is such an idiot, then I'm sorry. Father is clearly no more good than that. This Unsullied of yours has become like this because Daddy spoiled him like a spoiled kitten. It's time to talk to the king. Man to man. Fufu, spinning around beside him, rolled her eyes. Jian Chen is certainly cool, but isn't he overreacting? The inner palace is packed to the brim with masters, and there's a barrier to block magic. You can't even fart with teleportation. Jian Chen calmly replied, that's why I have you. I actually trust you with my life. Fufu blushed in surprise as if she had just been made the protagonist of a romance novel. Wait, are you seriously counting on me? Well, okay, I guess so. Maybe, a little bit. You can count on the great and unique Fufu. He handed her some sort of briefcase, or perhaps some documents. Here you go. This first. Now listen, you're really cute. Just like a cute bunny. She smiled, but the joy quickly faded because he added with a wicked grin, I wonder if you get dumped. Will you cry for a long time? What? Was all Fufu could say. Just then, Jianchen grabbed her and started counting down. 3, 2, 1, threw it with all his might. Fufu couldn't believe this was happening. She howled, flying away, in a parabola like the most adorable projectile in the world. Meanwhile, above the palace walls, the guards noticed that something small and winged had flown over their heads, and, of course, immediately gave the command, all stations, check. The perimeter, now! And Jian Chen only adjusted his collar and nodded to himself. Great, the way to the palace is open. Oh, I'm really curious what our hero will do with that flamboyant, flawless villain. Let's find out in the next installment. But if you want it, write the secret word, light, in the comments. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. See you all again, and bye-bye.